Recorded in the darkest dungeons of the Basement of Death studio, Josh, Troy, and Ty present a show dedicated to bringing you, the listener, into the adventure right along with them. Pick up your sword or load your bolt gun, but don't forget your helmet, because it is time for some Playin and Slayin. Live from the BOD studios across the Midwest, it is Playin and Slayin, episode 60. Welcome back. Sorry for the long break. We promise this will only happen intermittently as we're going to refocus on monthly episodes. However, in this episode, as always, we've been doing some playing of games. We've been maybe doing some hobby, purchasing some stuff, hanging out. So we're gonna just kind of do a catch up on what is going on around the bod sphere. We are going to, of course, update on our new 2022 hobby challenges and progress from the last episode. And then for our main topic, we're going to talk about Troy's probably favorite gaming of the year, Adepticon. So BOD had a presence there. Troy and Brice were both in attendance for the entire weekend. Josh was there in blue ghost, like Yoda Obi-Wan form. And I was there for a little bit Friday night and Saturday. So we're going to kind of recap Adepticon. That'll be the main segment of the episode. And then just get into, kind of an update. It's been a while since we talked to you. It's been a while since we talked to each other as a group. So sitting down here and getting over what's been happening. Before we dive into the meat of this episode 60 feast, when you're playing and slaying, it's important to stay hydrated. Hope all of you have a drink in hand. I'm going to start it off tonight. I am drinking a BTO Bach beer from Eagle Park Brewing in Muskego, a local kind of southwestern suburb of Milwaukee. BTO. It's tasty. It's got a cool, colorful can. This is really great for radio when my screen's blurry and you can barely see it. But if you're on YouTube, check out the cool label. And then if you're in Wisconsin, go buy the beer. Drink it. Josh, Blue Ghost, Force is strong in you. What are you drinking?
From Solemn Oath Brewery, End All Hazy IPA. They're from Naperville, Illinois. And I like a good hazy IPA, and this is a good one. I like it.
Is there hazy spelled without an A? Is it HZY?
It is, yeah.
They couldn't just add a letter and offset that by one.
It cost too much from what I was told. Adding that A was just a little too much.
Gotcha.
They're saving a nickel every can.
Well, I mean, that's worth it, That's like a quarter every 5 cans.
Right.
Yeah. Can get rich, save a quarter a day. Troy, what are you drinking?
I just noticed that I should have on the video switched Josh and I, because when I look to the left is where Josh is on my screen here. He's actually on my right on the video, or left or right, whichever way it is, or because I think it's reversed. So maybe when I look to my right, he's but anyway, I am drinking. I went to the back of the BOD fridge and went for Breakfast of Kings.
Ooh.
From Raised Grain. I think they're a common theme in my refrigerator here. So Raised Grain, Imperial Stout, cinnamon, bourbon barrel aged, coffee, about 11%. So I got to sip this, but I wanted something good, meaty, went for a classic. I don't even know if they make it. I think this is kind of a limited run every once in a while, but super good stout. So since it's still winter here in Wisconsin, I know other people around. I know Ben loves to send pictures now of it being 95 and him grilling out in San Antonio and everything, as we're still dealing with 30 some degrees and rain and snow and whatever it is. So it did. Last week we had 2 inches of snow? Was that over the weekend? Something like that. Crazy.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Do you know if Ben is raising his own animals to turn into sausage or burgers? Perhaps he's casing his own meats. Is he doing any of that preparation, or is he just buying store-bought meats?
I don't think he has a ranch in his backyard yet. I don't. Well, I don't know.
Then maybe he should hold his commentary on Brice's breakfast burritos.
I was hoping that was where that was going.
He's growing his own corn in the back, and grinding
when
his own flour.
When he starts his own farm to table grilling, he can comment on Brice's breakfast burrito prep. All right, Brice,
well deserved.
What are you drinking, sir?
I have a orange grapefruit soda with a little bit of rum, and I don't know what kind of rum it is. It's kind of strange. I have a glass bottle with no label that I think is from Mexico, but it's a dark rum and it's delicious.
You're gambling. I like that.
Yeah.
You're like, this should be rum.
Oh, it's rum. It's delicious rum. I just don't know. I think it's from when my parents and I went to Mexico about 15 years ago.
Aged to perfection.
Yep.
Wonderful. I'm glad we're all drinking, though. That's the upside. Nobody's like, I don't have anything, or Brice isn't drinking paint water. So we're a step ahead of the game, guys. Good to be back. I am very happy. Since we're back, we have been playing some games over the last month or two. I know we're going to focus on a lot of what Troy played with people at Adepticon in that segment, but anything leading up to Adepticon, Troy, that as far as prep for Space Hulk, or any notes in the lead up this year?
I think we'll talk about it a little bit. We didn't again. And a lot of it will be in hobby because a lot of it was this hobby. John and I did a limited play test of mostly just playing in our heads around what we were doing with the Space Hulk stuff, and then we've been playing the Zombicide Invaders on and off. So we did one more really solid play test of that, and we tweaked a few things, and we'll talk about how that turned out. But we were, slight spoiler, we were really happy with how that came out. So,
picture you and John prepping Space Hulk like when they're playing chess in like the Queen's Gambit, where it's just like going over, Cyclone Missile Launcher to B12, Gene Stealer to B10. Cyclone turns quarter turn, and you just kind of step through turns and rapid fire.
It's kind of funny. No, it's kind of like that. I guess I'm not a big chess player, but it is. We basically take, if we're worried about different rules or tweaks and something like that, we basically take create a scenario, instead of playing the whole game, we basically go, all right, if we have a guy here and a guy, and there's your Cyclone Missile Launcher, how will this piece play out, right? And then we look at another piece where we could have something, how will this play out? Think about when we changed a couple different rules, we just thought about, all right, how is this going to work? And we'd play just that piece of the game. So kind of like, right, where you see the chess puzzles, right? Hey, here's all the pieces. In 3 moves, get checkmate, right? So that's kind of what our play tests now turn into. It's like we rarely play the whole thing from beginning to end. We usually just create different scenarios and play out little snippets to make sure things make sense. So
nice. Other than that, we got some board games in before your Adepticon push. Since we last recorded, we played Kemet. What is it? Blood in the Sand.
Blood and Sand.
Is that the Blood and Sand?
Yep.
Which is an expansion and kind of a reimagining of the original Kemet. I don't recall what they all changed per se, because it had been so long since we played Kemet, but it was fun to get that out, build our temples, bash each other around the table, because that game is that's what I really forgot, is how much it's somebody gets ahead and the other players just try to go full out to stop that player and
plus
ignore
the Egyptian
that.
god theme is just really fun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a lot. That was a lot. I had been trying, I think for a long, because I got that probably right sometime in, who knows, 2020, 2021. and wanted to get that to the table. One, because it's super pretty, right? they redid it, and it's just gorgeous in terms of the components. And I didn't feel, again, we hadn't played Kemet in quite a few years, but right, they streamlined a couple of things, but they didn't change, I don't think, a lot of the rules fundamentally. I think they just tweaked some of the things that they learned along the way, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I think there was a lot of good back and forth, and I kind of forgot how good that game is, and it's been interesting in that we did. We in the past we always looked at kind of Kemet and what are some of the other kind of war board games. You kind of think of Blood Rage and some other things like that. And this just reminded me why I always kind of have Kemet at the top of my list, and I think I still do after we played it, because it's one of the, and I think it's one of those, sometimes you're like, oh, is the nostalgia of the memory better than the actual game? And I don't think so. Actually, I thought this play was actually better than when we had played it in the past. So high marks, at least for me, for our Kemet game. And of course, I'm super biased because it's my copy of wherever it is somewhere behind me here. Of Blood and Sand.
It had the Kickstarter like mat instead of the board game. It had the nice components. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
And then one night when Josh wasn't able to join, John was over and we played Galaxy Trucker. And that is a game where you build your spaceship in a relatively hectic fashion as you try to draw these little ship part tiles and fit them into your ship, and try to balance your different systems, your shields, your guns, your cargo space, your crew quarters. Connectors are relevant, and the moment you finish, you recognize that you've left things exposed or poorly constructed, and the first time an asteroid hits your ship, you're losing like a third of it. But and you play it over 3 rounds, and ultimately score points for kind of exploring different sectors, picking up cargo, salvaging ships, and just surviving. I think is 50% of the game, is just trying to have your ship in one piece, or less than 100 pieces when you limp into the finish line. So that game, I hadn't played it. I know, Troy, you've had that for a while. Yep. I think you had played it previously a few times.
Yeah, and it was funny. I had kind of forgotten I was going through our notes. Like all of a sudden, I saw it on the shelf. I'm like, hold it! I think we played that in the last couple of months here. And I'm glad you remembered, because I couldn't remember. I'm like, I swear Ty was here, and I can't remember. I'm glad you remembered how else was there. But yeah, it was. I think because you hadn't played it, and we were just looking for something pretty light. I can't remember what it was, what we had done. But we're like, we don't have a lot of mental energy to spend. Let's play something pretty low mental energy. That said, there is a lot of, because of the timed aspect and things, there is a lot of mental energy into kind of putting your ship together and making sure you don't make something terrible. And then there's a lot of luck in that game too, in terms of the tile, picking the tiles, and then the dice rolls in terms of when you actually are flying the ship as to where things come up and so forth. So you can't, what's cool, you just can't take it super seriously, but it is fun, and it's in some ways, I think things going wrong is what makes it a lot more fun. At least having some player that only limps back with maybe half their ship, or as they hit an asteroid and you watch 3/4 of their ship just evaporate because it was all attached by 2 little threads, unintentionally or unknown to them, right, when they put it together. So again, I think it's one of those, it's a classic, kind of been around for quite a while. Really nice components. It's really hard, big card, lots of nice stuff. And again, I think there's even better versions than what I have. I think I have kind of the standard version of Galaxy Trucker. So it's a nice one just to kind of have on your shelf to throw out whenever you're looking for something fun.
I'm going to pause from our list and just check in on Brice. Brice, have you had a chance to play anything, or has it been all work and home improvement still?
I can't even remember the last time I got to play a game. It's very sad.
Oh man, we got to change that. We should maybe all get together for a weekend and rent a place and play some games again.
Oh yeah, I can cook with store-bought tortillas.
You know what we should do? Tortillas every day. We should have like tacos. We should do a breakfast burrito, and we should always do store-bought tortillas.
Yeah, I'm down.
Sounds good. Well, maybe we'll plan that for sometime in May. Josh, any home games getting played? Anything going on in the coop, the House of Coop?
My daughter almost every night wants, the youngest, she's 4, wants to play some game. So we're either playing Connect 4 or playing Candyland, or like she's always busting out games. So I think we hooked one of them. So it's good.
Nice. Excellent. I've been playing a lot of HeroQuest. Adepticon weekend, I stayed with a friend of the show, former sponsor of the show, Brian of Anvil 8 Games. And he had still in the packaging the mythic level backing of HeroQuest, and played with him and Mike Reynolds, a guest from the UK that did all the graphic design for Brian. And that Saturday morning, after we had some breakfast, we cracked it out, and I took them through the first quest or so, and had a lot of fun. And then a week or so later, came over to Troy's, and then Josh and John and Troy went through the first. I think, did we get 2 quests in?
Yeah, I think we did. We did 2, the first 2. So
we had to re-roll 3 of the characters after quest 1. The elf was the lone survivor, I think.
Yep. And only by deciding that we had cutting bait and running at that point. So.
Yeah. What did you guys think? I think I've talked about HeroQuest, like just the nostalgia factor and how much fun it was for me. But now I've played probably 6 or 7 times with different group makeups and people. So, any thoughts on the revamping of the HeroQuest game system?
Yeah, I had a blast. I think it's super fun. I like dungeon crawler games like that, like Descent and things like that. So yeah, like that's right up my alley. I'm a big fan, and all the components are great. Like they did a really good job with this game. So plus, if you paint them up and make them look awesome, if my 3D printer was not being poopy, I would. I was trying to get some tiles printed for Ty so that it would be like an actual like board, but yeah, I don't know. I'm having minor issues and it's not printing right. But anyway, HeroQuest is awesome. So I'm a fan.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. That was a blast. Thank you, Ty. I know I was kind of like, Ty, I know you've played him like a million times, but would you mind teaching us? Because it just seemed like the perfect game to kind of last Saturday to kind of break out. And I had kind of taken it all apart because I got but hadn't put it all back together yet, so it was a good reason to do that. But I had a blast. Like that was, I guess I don't, maybe I played it 30 years ago or something once or something like that, and so I kind of knew what to expect because I kind of seen some of the playthroughs. But it was a blast. And it was kind of fun what we were doing when you had 4 different people, I think, playing different, the different characters, and I had kind of forgot, it definitely was a lot, there's not a lot of thinking, but you have to do some thinking. You have to do a little bit of managing probabilities and making sure you're not taking too many risks, and figure out how how do you ration things to get to the end of the whatever the quest is. So, and I'm kind of intrigued to see how the quests progress, and there's a lot more stuff to, I've only scratched the surface of the stuff that I have as I look at this huge bot. It happens to be sitting over there on my table at the moment, as I've been putting it away. So I did get and I went with is it Feldherr, the German company, the foam set that they built for it, because you could put everything from that mythic tier back into the regular box. I mean, now the box of course doesn't shut, right? It's like whatever, almost double the height of what it normally is, but you get everything in there. Like that was one of the things I wanted, was because I don't think like the Battle Foam solution just had like the core box, but it had something different for the kind of the expansions that were on there. So I'd like that. I mean, the felt itself, I hadn't got a lot from that company. It's kind of more of a soft foam than if you're used to what you get from Battle Foam, but it's in the box, and I just like the idea of it, everything fitting back in the box, because because that original packaging isn't really made, I think, to to kind of store all that stuff back again. So you need to have some kind of solution, I think, for your box control, unless you're happy with just dumping everything in there in a big pile, which also works. A bunch of bags and whatever could also work. But
And then we've been playing a bit of Dungeons and Dragons here and there. We're getting close to the end of the Rime of the Frost Maiden. Party found Yithrin. I think last time we recorded, you guys had just entered Yithrin. We're still there in the necropolis, but you've pieced together the final ritual to gain entrance to the spire. No spoilers, but well, spoilers be damned. There's been 2 adventures released, so all's fair. But you guys are level 9. I think
you just told us 10. Yep.
Level 10. Nearing the end.
Right.
Probably got a
I gotta
couple
level
sessions left. Yeah, you got to level up. Now you get like 3 Eldritch Blasts or something, or more damage. I don't know how it works.
Something cool.
Warlocks, all you get is more Eldritch Blasting. But yeah, so we're coming up to probably the last couple of sessions. Should be wrapping that campaign here pretty soon. So, any thoughts on Frost Maiden before the end of the campaign?
It's been fun in this last stretch, especially again, we kind of had a break and we couldn't, right? We had a long break, but it was nice that we've gotten kind of in a rhythm and gotten through. There's kind of been, right, this puzzles or these things we've had to find in Yithrin, right? I won't completely spoil everything for for people, but so finding, knowing what we had to do, I think was pretty cool, because then we could kind of like really work our way through it, and you felt like you were, you definitely can feel how we're ramping up, I think, to the end. So I'm kind of excited to see how we all die at the end, which will be maybe anticlimactic, but maybe not. I think Brice's character will walk out. That'll be it.
Yeah.
Everybody else will just be, yep.
And what's great about that is Brice's character has the lowest hit point total I've ever seen in a 10th level character. So, what are you weighing in at, Brice?
32 without this level. I'm waiting to roll till everyone's together.
Yeah, it's.
Well, every time you do like an area effect, I hold my breath that it's not going to be double.
Yeah. I mean, even if you took the average for those 10 levels, you'd be at like 50, 54.
Oh, yeah. It's impressive that I've been able to roll so low. So that's why I've kept it going.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. So if you're the sole survivor, that would be pretty great.
It'd be
Walk
fitting.
out with all the treasure. So that's D&D. And then I want to just kind of promote something here. I've been playing a little bit of Vampire 5th edition, an actual play. So Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m. Central Time on Mr. Meff's Twitch, we go live. We've got a pretty fun group, all people I'd never really met before. So we're kind of gelling as a group. We've done 3 episodes of Milwaukee by Night, Endless Elegy. So Andrew has been probably writing this campaign and writing the headcanon for the last 15 years, drawing on the time he lived in Milwaukee and some of the old World of Darkness source material to kind of create his version of Dark Milwaukee. So I am playing in that, and it is a lot of fun. And if you get a chance, you should check it out Wednesday nights at 8:30 on his Twitch, and then the video goes up on YouTube usually the next day on YouTube, and you can find it Milwaukee by Night, Endless Elegy on YouTube. Episodes are coming in around 2 hours. The last one was a little bit longer, but first one was like an hour and a half, and we're trying to keep a decent kind of episodic nature to it. So we're not having these 6-hour sessions or anything. We're keeping them relatively digestible in the grand scheme of an actual play. Charlotte, one of the players, she is Foxfire22 on, I think, Twitter and other. She's done a lot with Foundry. She does things for the Foundry virtual tabletop for some game companies. So has loaded in a bunch of sounds and images. has created some splash screens, like our character overlay, character cards, profiles. It's looking really good. So it's been a lot of fun to be a part of that. Really good group, and enjoying playing in the world of darkness in the mind of Mr. Meth. So check that out. Hopefully you'll enjoy, and we try to interact a little bit with chat when we're playing, but then we always kind of do a little bit of after dark when it's over, and just hang out for a bit and talk too. So having a lot of fun with it.
How challenging has it been to not think of Paul's campaign?
Yeah, so I mean, I played in that mage campaign. It's been several years, but we've had a very long hiatus, which has made it easier, I think, because separate headcanons. But I'm enjoying seeing someone else's take on places. Like our assignment from the Prince was to go to the rave, and there was a concert at the rave that we had to investigate the singer, and then we ended up in Hubbard Park, up along the river, and like different areas that have meant different things in the campaigns. It's interesting to see how they correlate, and then that Paul puts a lot of his spin into his Milwaukee, Dark Milwaukee, and Andrew puts a lot of his into the vampire in the world of darkness. So I mean, it hasn't been hard. It's just been a lot of fun. It's really, really fun, and both of them are really great storytellers, and just develop really, really in-depth NPCs. And Andrew's taken all the time to put all these NPCs and all these places up on Discord, so there's like a reference. So like if people want to join the Discord, they can, and they can see all the material and get an understanding of it. So that's helpful too. I mean, all of it's like all the reference material. If somebody wanted to run their game, they could do it. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and he's doing a great job with it. The group, we're hitting our stride. I think that's the interesting thing, right? Usually we role play with our group of friends, and people we know really well. Coming into a group that I didn't know anyone outside of Andrew, you kind of get the read on people's timing and how active they are, and that's been the other enjoyable part, is just riffing off new people as our characters kind of develop and our party gels. We've been kind of enjoying that experience of coming together and collaborating to tell this story. So it's been a lot of fun.
Really cool. And I'm even more sad that I didn't get, I told you before we got on, that I wanted to get at least a little experience with it, because I knew we were going to chat about it. So, but I was curious, and now you said rave. So now I'm like, really, the rave. So, and maybe I'll find out what year is it? Are you guys in the current
modern
year?
day?
Is it okay? It's modern day. Okay.
Yep.
I'm like, if you would have been the rave in the 90s, then that's like prime.
I
might have been like really like.
Or was there?
Yeah, I was there. I would have been an NPC watching Typo Negative at the rave.
We went to see a concert by band Momentum Mori, and the lead singer Athena is this female with this like piercing voice who's new to the band, and the guitarist is kind of like a punk Tom Morello named Nails, who you'll learn about. But it was pretty fun.
All right, more and more excited. All right,
yeah,
we'll definitely link to it. We'll definitely check it out.
Yeah, it's
and stealing some good ideas. I'm sure that now I know we had talked about that, but I'll have to look and see, because it sounds like might be some good ideas for upping our graphic design on our online games, because we've been playing. We played with a little bit of stuff. Ty and I did.
Yeah,
and I know we talked about stuff for maybe next one doing more. So
yeah, it's I mean, Mr. Meth, we've obviously had Andrew on the show, and his Twitch and his Twitter. I've been retweeting some of the material, so if you follow me at Fat Kid Sports, you can see some of it. But it is, what I will say too is, it is an entirely different experience playing when you know it's being recorded and broadcasting live. You try not to be self-conscious of like what you're saying or how, what your mannerisms are, but then you start paying more attention to like I don't want to say the performance. It's still role playing, right? Like it's not like we're acting for like an audience on a stage, but there is that element, right, of keeping the tempo of the story, kind of not all the downtime, like everything. You want to hit your pacing, you want to hit like, that keeping the story moving and have good dialogue and be expressive of your character. It's a little bit different than board game style. Move a token here. It's all theater of the mind. It's all heavy RP. It's enjoyable. So I would be very interested in feedback from you all and then certainly everyone else if you get a chance. I'm not expecting people to tune in every week, but sometimes it's fun to catch an episode here or there.
Only if you're doing a funny voice.
I don't do a funny voice. My character is Salvatore. He's like a former mobster, kind of Sicilian. So there's Clan Hecata. They took all the clans of death, like the Giovanni and others, and merged them into the Hecata. So he's like a former mobster who became a vampire, who's now been sent to Milwaukee for reasons from his sire and the bloodline to establish a foothold. Because long story short, Hecata have a 500-year agreement with the Camarilla. That's the like governing body of the kindred, the vampires. And they made an agreement in 1528 to remain neutral between the war between like the Anarchs and the Camarilla. But that is expiring in 5 years. So Hecata is trying to position themselves into a place where they're not going to be wiped out when this agreement, this compromise of 1528 is over. So my character is there in Milwaukee with kind of this understanding of neutrality with the prince, and some autonomy, but also vampire society. The prince is the tyrant king of the city. So having a lot of fun, but I don't do an affected like Italian voice. It's just pretty close to my own voice because I don't do good voices other than Larkin, the pseudo dragon familiar of Josh's character.
I was gonna say, I was about to jump in there and say, hold on a minute.
That might be. We might have to record our own actual play there, or at least segments of it. I'll have to secretly record Ty because he won't be able to do it if he knows I'm recording him. But
no,
I secretly record and then maybe we get a Larkin.
We have to censor Larkin too. He's got a foul mouth. He's just filthy.
Yep. So I want to know if. So I assume that. I don't know about Brice. So I mean, when I grew up, I grew up early. Like Vampire was like you had D&D, and then you had Vampire the Masquerade. Like were the big. Yeah. If I go in the 90s, whatever. So. Even though I've never played and whatever, I read the book and I kind of like when Ty goes through the clans, I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of remember that. So I don't know. Brice, do you have any like exposure to it besides talking to us on the podcast?
I do from my time playing with Paul, Jen, and Ty. Tom.
Okay.
But aside from that, I wouldn't know anything about it.
Do you own a book? Do you own a? We got.
I own the Changeling book.
Changeling. Oh, we gotta get you like a vampire book. Yeah.
I'll send you the PDF, Brice. The 5e PDF, and then I got the Cults of the Blood Gods, which is the new one that included Hecata. That book's really fun. But yeah, he took so Milwaukee by Night was a 1992 White Wolf World of Darkness book that actually like they did all this material for the city of Milwaukee. Then there was like a Streets Run Red supplement that referenced a lot of Milwaukee as well. So he's like borrowed from those things and then put in his own take, and twisted it. But our group's got a Malkavian, Toreador, Nosferatu, my Hecata, and then Scott, his character is named Ben Sahar, and he is a Tremere. So it's a fun mix.
All right, cool stuff. We will probably be checking in the future episodes on how Milwaukee by Night is going. So interested to see.
Excellent. Hop in chat some Wednesday. I'll say hi if I see y'all in there.
You know we will.
All right, let's get to the hobby table. So before we check in on the hobby challenge, I think we're going to talk about what we all have done. Troy, we are going to give you the lead because you have obviously, in the lead to Adepticon, done the lion's share of all hobbying. So you want to kind of talk through what you did, and then we'll probably be able to guess how many points you got in the hobby challenge.
Sure. And some of this is the reason why we have not recorded in about 2 months, month and a half, why we missed the month of March, basically. And some of that was because we kind of missed a window, and then at some point I was just in the complete whatever you want to call it, complete trudge to get everything done for Adepticon and through. And so that included making as we'll talk about in my entry for the challenge was 24 new gene stealers. So I basically replaced my 30-year-old, 32-year-old gene stealers that have been fighting in that Space Hulk many years with kind of newer gene stealers that I think I got from Ty at some point. The good news is they were already assembled, and I just had to prime and paint them. But I kind of did, and I tried to make them look cool and did a little bit a nice little recipe on them. So those are my entry for our regular troops for our challenge that we'll get to. Then I dry brushed, I don't even know, I think it's about 50 plus pieces and assembled pieces of Sector Mechanicus terrain, because basically for Space Hulk I kind of replaced we have 2 different levels. I replaced all the lift stuff that we kind of had done, John had done with some plastic card things. I'm like, let's use the Mechanicus terrain to be as our lifts, our kind of our second level stuff, which ended up looking really, really cool. But we had and I pulled out, I don't know how many, over the years I'd bought and collected so many different boxes of the Sector Mechanicus terrain, and it definitely finally came in handy as I pulled those all out and clipped and assembled and everything else. I did have some help. We will get to. I did have some help with assembly and that. So, and Necromunda terrain. I finally pulled out some of my huge box, the original Necromunda starter box, and a lot of the terrain in there, and then I had some additional stuff on the shelf. So, so having all these unopened boxes over on the north side of the Basement of Death definitely came in handy when I just needed to find stuff. Then I also made 26 3D LE flames. If anybody saw some of the pictures, and maybe we'll put some there. Was doing a lot of research on 3D Space Hulk stuff, and I found somebody had made a 3D print of like a flame template, a round flame template, and that he had done with then a transparent filament, and then had something where you could wire up a light to it. And I had bought a bunch of tea lights, LED tea lights, just to kind of, for an idea of having some cheap tea lights or LED lights to play with. And was able to come up with a really cool solution where I just resized them a little bit and then gutted these tea lights and took the guts of them and threw them in there. And ended up with some really, really cool flame templates that we did. And so I'll have to help. I put my niece Sydney, John's youngest. She had been coming over as John and I we're working almost every weekend kind of through March to get stuff done. And she went to work. And so she was the one who actually gutted all the LED lights and also helped me clip out a ton of terrain off of spruce. So we'll get her, starting to get her close. She likes to hang around. I think she also hung around when we were playing HeroQuest. She wasn't excited to play HeroQuest, but we got her. She's kind of close. Maybe we'll get her as our future generation. So, and then I had to build new elevators because I decided The old elevators I didn't really like anymore. And then with the Necromunda stuff, I was inspired. They have like a lift in there, and I was trying to figure out how to do it. And then I actually found a 3D print that was inspired by I won't say copied, I'll say inspired by the GW Necromunda terrain. Looks really similar. So I 3D printed that. And then John did some I leave all the really hard assembly, pinning, that kind of stuff to John. He just does it a lot better than I do. And so John created the lifts that we're calling, so made 4 of those and painted those up. I think they're really cool, and they were a nice little add to what we were doing. So that got me through. I think that was everything I did for Space Hulk, which was, I don't know. There was a couple weekends where I literally it was an 8-hour-a-day job. Just come down in the morning, start working along. And there was one day when I don't remember what I started with. I watched some movie, then I watched Don't Look Up. Then I was depressed, so I watched I can't think of what her name is, Tomlinson on her Netflix special, which was pretty funny.
Taylor Tomlinson.
Yeah, very, very, very funny. But that's because I was really depressed after watching Don't Look Up and whatever the other one was, and then I watched something else. And so that was just the evening. So, and that was after I'd put a full day in. So there was some long, long days of assembly and painting and stuff like that to get over the hump. So, more than enough hobby, considering made up for the fact that I hadn't hobbied for quite a while. So.
Nice. I will. I'll dive in. So I chose to paint 5 zombies from Zombicide 2nd Edition, and I dabbled with painting them. I got them, primed. The assembly was super easy with those Zombicide zombies.
You got them out of the package, unbroken.
Yep. Got some flesh on them. Some of them got more colors than others, but. Just kind of messed around. I played with some combinations of using some of Scale 75 instant paints with regular paint, and was just kind of, had been a long time since I put paint on models. And then we'll talk probably about this at the Adepticon recap, but I've been doing some assembly of a new game system, which the models are really cool, and that's Conquest by Parabellum. So I've bought some of the Wardrune. They're kind of like big orcish troll-like monster guys, and I've been putting some of them together, and the plastic's really nice. The kits are really good, so definitely enjoying that assembly. And then I look at my shelf of Marvel Crisis Protocol, and I got to figure out what I want to do with it. I might look into some commission options and just do a big spend to get, all of them painted, because I don't know that I'll get to it. I want to do it, but it's kind of where my color blindness interferes with my ambition. Because for something like that, I don't want to constantly be trying to color match with help from others and figuring out the scheme, because everyone has, I guess you could do superheroes, right, how you want. But the whole concept is they have like a set, this is the colors from this comic or from how they look in the movies versus this run. And I think for me, that's important in how they look. And I think it would just be a total pain in the rear to try to recreate all of that with my limited ability to identify and match colors. So I'm kind of torn on what to do with the Crisis Protocol. Which has caused some hobby paralysis. Josh, how about you? What's been on the bench?
Yeah, man. So I had stumbled across some orcs that I had built and primed a long time ago, and then when we were talking about this, I was like, oh yeah, I could paint out 5 orcs, right? I had one really good night where I got some stuff down and, cleaned up the hobby desk back here, the disaster. And yeah, painted a little bit. That was about it. I don't know, my painting motivation is low. So I bought the Army Painter speed paints. I'm interested in trying those out. So, just a little tiny bit easier. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. But I figured I'd mess around with that and see how they are, because I think they're newish, right?
Yeah, I think they released those last couple of months. I know they had them.
Yeah.
They're pretty prevalently displayed at Adepticon.
I bet, yeah.
Be interested in how they compare. It would be nice to do a test between like contrast paints, the scale 75 instant colors, and Army Painter's new speed paints, because I think they all kind of fit into the same concept. So it'd be interesting to kind of do like a test comparison of the three.
Yeah, I'd be interested. I haven't seen anything with the Scale 75's instance. That'd be interesting to see how they kind of play in there. I've been watching, because people have had a ton of videos out on the Army Painter speed paints, and I same thing I picked up. It was my last purchase walking out of Adepticon. As there were, I can't remember who had. Somebody had just a pile of the starter boxes, and I grabbed that to walk out. And my goal is I'm actually gonna, I have some of the HeroQuest stuff all primed, and I'm gonna probably just, that'll be my test to use the Army Painter speed paints on. Be a good kind of thing, just see what they look like. Because it seems like, they're in that same boat, but I think there's different. They perform a little bit differently. I've heard they're a little bit in some of the, I can't remember if they're more gloss or more matte. I think they're a little more gloss. It might be they take a little bit longer to dry than maybe the contrast paints from GW is what I've kind of got from some of the videos. But again, you watch videos, you get kind of a wide range of of opinions too. So it's always best to get your own experiences out of that. So it feels like, again, they're another tool in the tool belt, and you'll figure out where, just like where contrast paints kind of fit, where do you like to use them. I think there'll probably be certain colors that really make sense to grab the Army Painter ones versus something else. So
right.
Before we go to Brice, I do want to share. So Landon has wanted to paint some rocks. So I was experimenting, painting some rocks with like gray, and then putting some colors over it. So I have also been painting some rocks, which is I don't know why he was all about it, but we sat here and started putting some paint on some rocks the other night.
Sweet.
Jeez, even Landon did more hobby than I did.
So that answers my next question. Brice, what are you working on?
I just wanted to make sure everyone had a head start for the rest of the year. So I came in hard here with a whopping 0.
Yeah, well, that's a good segue. So the Hobby Accountability Challenge, Brice, 0 points. But points are made of five things: assembled, primed, then 3 colors on them, advanced hobby techniques is the 4th point, and then completed with like basing is 5. So Troy, your Gene Stealers were assembled, primed, 3 color minimum, use some advanced hobby techniques of dry brushing, and then you base them. So finished bases. So you earn all 5 points for the first month of the hobby challenge. Well done. My models pre-assembled. I'm taking that point. Primed. And then I did get a minimum of 3 colors on each of the 5 models. So flesh, and then at least 2 other colors on each one. Some I got more, but some I got less. Advanced hobby techniques, I never got to the blood effects or the finishing. And then I didn't base them. So I gained 3 points for the first month of the hobby challenge. Josh, if we're scoring you out, built, primed. Did each model get 3 colors? I couldn't tell from the photo.
Not every model. There was like 2 or 3 that there was 2 that had 3 colors on them, and there was the other 3 had 1 or 2 colors on them. So
you get 2.4 points.
I was going to say, I think, right, you can go to half points in our rubric.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
2/5 is 0.4, so 2.4 for Josh. And then the fez of shame for next episode will be worn by Brice with a 0 point hobby effort. So Brice, you're going to need to get a camera set up, and we're going to get you this this fez for when we record, because you will be recording wearing the fez of shame for the next episode.
The fez of failure.
Fez of failure.
Whoa.
Yes, there's no shame in the
proudly.
hobby. There's just failure. All right, so that brings us to Troy in the lead after month 1 with 5. I'm behind him marginally, but with 3. Josh 2.4, and then Brice with 0. So Troy out to the early lead. We'll see where we are next month. I have a suggestion for our next challenge, and I think everyone may enjoy this. There was 5 rank and file miniatures last time. I think this time we should do a terrain piece with a base. So like, it could be an apartment building for Crisis Protocol in the city street. It could be a tower for like Frostgrave or AOS, as long as you put it on some kind of base. Could even be, if you're really ambitious, it could be a display board, but one piece of terrain and basing. Do we have a consensus? Does that sound good?
That works.
I think so. I kind of have a moral objection against putting terrain on bases, but I can find a different.
It doesn't have to be permanently affixed to it, Troy.
I know. I'll be all right. To
make it look nice.
You can make it look, yeah.
Or
I'm
you
just
get 4
always
points.
Yeah.
Or you get 4 points.
No, No, we can do it. We can do it. Where my go is that the problem is then the terrain has to match whatever the rest of the board is. That's where I am, and so it's like now you as long as you're planning like that piece because you can go with that, whether it's mat or a table, then you're good. But I always get annoyed when when people have terrain pieces that have a base and then it's completely like it's got snow on a grass base or on a glass mat or something, right? So sorry, that's just I don't know what that is. OCD, I don't know. So I'm always not. But
I will extend an alternative: a piece of terrain with 3 pieces of scatter terrain in addition to if you choose not to do a base.
Yeah, we'll see.
So you could do like an apartment building and then 3 dumpsters.
I mean, I really liked and we're going to go away on a tangent. Sorry. I really liked what GW did for the opens where they used a piece of plexiglass like for game purposes, like, hey, here's what the base of the terrain, footprint of the terrain is, but the terrain piece like was then, was then on that clear base that you're
okay with that, but you're not okay with clear terrain with clear objective markers.
Only I would say, well, the only thing
is start.
Only because that was it was the terrain for a competitive tournament, right? So,
okay.
Like would I do that for my home game? I don't know that I'd put all my terrain on plexiglass, right? But if we were doing if I was planning a competitive tournament, I think that's a nice compromise. That's still very
it definitely avoids
pleasing,
it avoids the need for a judge to tell you what the boundaries of the terrain are.
And ruins definitely are hard, like, right? Because ideally they're not. So sorry, we went way down the train because I'm a weird person with basing terrain. I'm the same with vehicles. Sorry, like, does your vehicle belong on a base? Maybe, I don't know. I don't think. I get it, but I don't really like it.
Jet bikes have flying bases.
But now you're seeing like tanks and I just like, really, a tank on a base or like even the Gene Stealer like big buggies or trucks. And especially, are they on an oval? And they're on like an oval base? I don't know. Sorry, we're getting on my. Brice, were you weighing in here?
Valid questions.
I like bases in every sense. Vehicles, terrain, all of it. It makes it look more uniform to your army and the matching pieces.
All your base belong to us.
I will agree with that. It makes the army look cohesive, but then I don't like. Then I put that army on a table, and now it doesn't look cohesive with the table. That's my.
You gotta make a table to match your army, then.
Right. Well, if you gotta double down. So.
All right, let's dive into crowdfunding. Who's been doing what on Kickstarter? somebody put an augmented reality platform for tabletop role-playing games up, and I have no idea what it is.
So the only reason is because, again, marketing worked for me. Not that I did not back this, but I saw this had a Joe Manganiello backing commercial for this of an augmented reality platform, kind of like a Roll20 or what's the one you guys are using, the Foundry or the whatever. Yeah. And it's a 3D instead of being like a top down. It's literally it looks like they are partnering with like a lot of the
Dwarven
Forge, like a lot of the 3D modeling companies to again take STLs and OBJs, kind of the 3D models, and pull them into this platform so you can build your own. Basically, you're building your virtual table like you would with your, you have my Dwarven Forge table. Oh, I'll just build a virtual Dwarven Forge table, and each of your players then has their tablet with them at the table, and they can, move stuff around and things like that. So I'm not sure. I thought it was interesting. It's definitely, I don't know if this is the one. My guess is there's another generation of this that might be better.
It looks a lot like Tailspire.
That one
Steam.
That we had looked at. Yep.
Yeah.
So I think, again, it looks like they have they have Joe. They probably have a lot. It sounds like they have some money behind them. They got some partnerships with some pretty big names in the 3D modeling group. Kind of interesting. It was funny. I think it was a little talk about Adepticon. I think Dwarven Forge was there in some form. And John and I had an interesting conversation about the future of Dwarven Forge, because I feel like hopefully, maybe this is part of it. Like, hopefully they've seen the writing on the wall, right? That in my mind, 3D printing has they're coming to an end, right? They need to diversify, or there's going to be their market is shrinking or just, as they go forward, right? Because 3D printing is going to basically put them out of business if they don't find a different and something like this where. I didn't know that they had 3D, version, but basically that's, moving into that 3D modeling space would be a way to continue that company in some form. So it was kind of good to see there, because again, John and I were having the conversation like, ooh, is that company hopefully looking into the future? Or are they going to milk this, their small, quickly shrinking market until it dies? But so hopefully maybe some things like this would help that continue.
So it funded in 7 hours. They've raised $251,000. There's still 24 days left, and it is Arcana, AR capitalized like augmented reality, Arcana, and it looks like $30 gets you in the door, and then 50 is kind of the full, or 80 is the full.
Yeah, again, it looks like how many different kinds of models and things you want to make is where your price points kind of go up, and then in the future you can which is good. So it seems like you're all, again, they have to run a business, right? But
what kind of bugs me just looking at it is the purchase, right? You got to purchase like the minis, and you got to purchase add-ins, whereas Tailspire is just a flat fee, and then they upload content, and you can.
Yep.
But interesting.
Yep. It's interesting to see how that business. Yeah, are you better with more of a subscription business model where all the models are available, or something like this where you're buying the models as you go, and that price? I don't know. You could probably go either way. I almost lean more towards subscription with more, available more stuff than this one. But
yeah, cool. Anything arrive on anyone's doorstep from Kickstarter?
Just the same stuff I have 2 boxes underneath this table that came during my Adepticon prep, and I said I cannot be distracted. I'm not even going to open them, and I still haven't opened them. Was
one of them from Simon?
Yep.
And it's the size of a small person and weighs more than maybe your child.
Yeah. It's either a replacement for my beer fridge.
Yeah, it's either a mini fridge or a bunch of board games.
Yep. I'm not sure which. It could be a Massive Darkness refrigerator, I think.
It could be Massive Darkness 2 refrigerator. Mine is not yet open, and I put a question here in the show notes, and that is, what is the opposite of FOMO? Because FOMO probably gets me to back a lot, but what's the opposite of FOMO where you get it and you're just really disappointed that you never canceled it.
It's where you sell it, so you have it no mo.
No more. No more.
Hideo Nomo.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm really like, I don't even want to open it. I'm mad at myself for this one. I'm looking at it here. I dragged it out just for the show so I could look at it and get really upset.
Good for you. I'm proud
No,
of you.
man. Like, I made all this effort to clear out space on my shelves. I did all of this downsizing, getting rid of other zombie side stuff and like minis.
This was before that, wasn't it?
Hopefully, I actually
Yeah, it
bought
was.
this before.
It was
that. I
before
don't
that.
know.
Yeah,
It took forever
yeah.
to get here, and then I forgot to cancel the pledge. Then it arrived, and I'm disappointed that I have it, and I don't even think I can sell it. I don't think anyone wants this crap. Like,
I haven't even looked. Yeah, because I'm trying to figure. Yeah, do I just go on eBay and say whatever pledge flip? Here's your whatever. Yeah, I haven't even looked to see if it's got what the value is. So,
like I'd probably, I might even throw. So Noble Knight's doing a one of their big trade-in events this weekend, and I may throw this in its box and just bring it and say, will you guys give me like a Marvel Crisis Protocol model? Can I get $30 in store credit?
we'll see. Yeah, Itai, I mean, totally off topic. I think I'm going too this weekend. So let me know if you're.
Hey,
I think
yeah.
I'm going on Sunday. I think is what works out for me. But
I was gonna go Saturday. I got baseball practice Sunday.
So we'll see. I might have some flexibility. So.
All right. We could, that would be a fun little road trip. You're on the way to Madison for me.
Yep. Noble Knight, they can sponsor us for just giving them a drop. So
yeah, we should talk to them, see if they sponsor any gaming podcasts while we're there. Could be like, hey, you want to buy my old crap and sponsor the podcast that 12 people listen to? 20 download, 12 listen. Don't forget, please download.
They're high
like
purchasers. Yeah, they're high purchasers.
Yeah,
so they have a high tendency. Yeah, your click-through rates can be very, very high.
That's right.
Like and subscribe.
And we will completely sell out and put banner ads on our YouTube videos. Like, we'll record like radio style commercials for you. I mean, we have no shame, really.
Because you see, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see there's two nice little, because Brice isn't available on video, there are two little ad spaces available in the corners right now that could be for sale. So
yeah, we'll just send them a clip of us shilling for sponsors, and they'll be like, we're in. Let's do this.
They're gonna be like, wow, these guys buy a lot of stuff.
All right, any other crowdfunding that didn't get mentioned? Brice, any updates on your laundry list of unfulfilled Kickstarters? I'm going to take that as a no from Brice. Or he walked away. He just got tired of dealing with us and he left, and we can't even tell. All right. Other stuff in the hobby sphere. So I talked a little bit about Conquest, Last Argument of Kings. Saw a bunch of the miniatures at the Parabellum booth at Adepticon. Did a demo. Really enjoyed. It plays quick, fun. Combat is just downright filthy. Like, things die left and right, and then more models flee. So it's not a real long game. At least it doesn't feel like that. And the model lines are pretty cool. And it's a 2-in-1, so it's a skirmish game and a war game. So you get the models can be used for both. The bases of the individual models come on round bases that slot into kind of rank and file squares or rectangles to play the full game, and then you can take them off and make your warband for the skirmish level game. So really liking that. Brian picked up a bunch too. I think Brice did as well. And then talking about maybe doing a little bit of a escalation with Brian and some of those guys down in his area, like Tony and Zach, and playing with them every so often because they were getting in on it too. So
Ty,
we'll see.
you left me like I had definite orders about go over to Parabellum, take a look, check it out, see if you're excited. I will admit I delegated the demo to Ben and John. I didn't actually do the demo myself, but and I took a look, and I was excited by the models. I couldn't jump in because of square bases and rank and file. And John and Ben, you can blame them. They gave me a above average, but they didn't like come away and say, oh yeah, this is the best thing since sliced bread. Like they kind of like, yeah, it's pretty. And they, exactly what you said, they thought the combat was cool and they were like, the miniatures are cool and some of that stuff. So sorry. So I did not jump in with both feet on you guys. And I hate to say it's like so stupid, right? It's square bases is the one thing that's kind of got me and the rank and file just has me a little bit on my back heel on some of that stuff. So you guys may have to play and then bring me along and then get sucked.
Maybe you can buy a warband and play the skirmish game with circle bases and see if you like it. I mean, it's right now the tough part too is it's not easy to find. A lot of the U.S. distributors, Miniature Market, and others don't have a lot of it in stock. Game stores are sold out because they're in. I think they're in Athens, Greece. The company Parabellum, and the supply in the U.S. is just a little hard to find. But I was able to find like one box on Amazon. Bought a couple there of the faction I'm gonna build up. And they're just really cool models. So even if they only get built and painted, I think their scale is bigger too than like Age of Sigmar. So I'm excited by that for painting, because you got a little more room to work with and bring your detail up. But yeah, so that is Conquest, and then I've been playing some computer games. Didn't talk about it in Playin, but so I think it's Gearbox or Bethesda Gearbox that did Borderlands. Set in the same world, did a game called Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. So it's kind of the Tiny Tina's a character from Borderlands, and the game starts and she's running a D&D campaign for you and two others, like around a table. She's got a GM screen. Then you go into the D&D game, and your character is doing fantasy themed quests, saving a town from an attack by an undead horde, doing these other things. And it's a looter shooter, kind of like Borderlands, but set in this world. And then between quests, there's an overland, which is the map. Like if you remember the old Dragon Warrior, the original Final Fantasy, where you walk around the world map and then random encounters pop up or destinations. So there's this cool element of like a throwback to old school RPGs on different console systems. Pretty fun. So I got it on PC, and Matt and Elena have been playing, so we're going to try to sync up and play that a little bit. And then the new MLB The Show came out. Got that on PS5. Started my Road to the Show pitcher. Just made AAA today. So pretty excited to get that call up to the big leagues here any day now. And the graphics in that game are absolutely insane. How far it's come since, I think the last time I picked it up was like 2018 on PS4. So on PS5, it's pretty awesome. And then Josh is having a lot more success with this game, but I got Elden Ring, and I played for maybe 6 hours, and haven't really figured it out or put enough time into it to get it down, and I don't know if I ever will. But Josh, Elden Ring.
Yeah. It seems like every time I turn around, somebody's talking about Elden Ring somewhere. I was late to the game, because usually when a game gets a whole bunch of hype, I found like I don't always like all the games that are super hyped up. I don't know, for me, I've never played a Souls game, so none of the Dark Souls series I've never played, and so I was like, I mean, I keep hearing about it, so I think I bought it. I don't know, maybe middle of March, and yeah, I'm having a blast with it. It's really good. Having never played a Dark Souls game, I couldn't. Getting into the mechanics and stuff was a little herky jerky at first. But yeah, I think I'm level like 85 or 90, and I have like 45 or 50 hours into the game. Like and I think I'm maybe halfway. Like there's so much to this game, and I'm taking my time because I'm just kind of like questing around, and there's a lot of people that are just trying to knock out all the big bosses. But there's so many like side bosses and side quests and like caverns that like you could play it 3 times and miss a whole section. Like it's so big and it's so well done. I'm having a blast with it. So for reference, anybody that's playing, I'm on the final boss in Volcano Manor. So I think that's about halfway from what I've gathered. So I don't know. We'll see. There's quite a bit more to go. So
Have you seen Tom's ridiculous character?
no, but he was telling me that he's been playing a bunch. So
Yeah.
what's his character like?
I mean, the gear is insane. He's got the sword of night and fire, or
And
night and
flame,
ice,
yeah.
yeah, and then a couple other builds.
Nice.
I want to say he's well over level 100, like
Sure, yeah.
125-ish, and he's just been invading other people and knocking them around. I
Well, that's
think
the awesome
he's
thing. Like
through the
you
game, and
could,
now he's just invading to ruin other people's day.
right, yeah. Yeah, that's the cool thing is there's this like the game mode and then there's like PvP mode. And so like you could do both and have fun. You could do just one of them and have fun. Like there's
What system did you get on computer? Or are you playing on PlayStation?
yeah, I'm playing it on my computer. So yeah, no, it's having a blast. I actually just built a kind of a gaming computer, so I
Oh, nice.
wanted to kind of stretch it and see how it goes. And yeah, the graphics are unreal. Like some of these areas are just so cool. So
Yeah,
yeah,
until a giant kicks you and you die, and then you're like,
yeah.
damn it, where'd he come from? Or a dragon
Right.
flies up out of a swamp and breathes fire on you, and you're dead in like 5
Yeah.
seconds. Like, oh man.
I have had some jump out of my seat moments where like a giant dragon just comes crashing down next to you, or
Have cliffs killed you more than monsters?
um
Or is that a unique experience to my playthrough of Elden Ring?
that might be you. I don't know.
Because cliffs are killing me more than monsters at this point in time.
Yeah, you can't drop down real far.
No,
Like,
you can't. No, you
no.
can't. Mm-mm.
No. But yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it a lot.
I'm like, I think that's a ledge. Nope, not a ledge. Just a less steep slope.
And then you go, ah,
Yeah.
you died. Yeah, that is the theme of the game is you die and rinse repeat, and yeah.
And I heard that George R. R. Martin wrote the story, but I'm yet to see any story other than people calling me tarnished and not understanding what the hell's going on. So it's kind of like season 8 of Game of Thrones.
There's a lot of weird like without like spoiling it too much, there's like this kind of, I don't know if it's like culty or religious-y under themes of some weird stuff. And you're actually kind of figuring it out as you go. So yeah, I don't want to spoil too much of it, but yeah, you're in this world between kind of place. It's like purgatory almost or something. So yeah, I don't know. There's some videos out there if you just want to like check out the lore. People have done videos of just the lore aspect of things, which is kind of cool. So I haven't spoiled any of that, but I'll probably go once I finish the game. I'll probably go back and just listen to some of the lore stuff because it's definitely interesting. But yeah, there's factions that are trying to do different stuff too, which is you can kind of align yourself with certain things, and I don't know. Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
And then before I kick it over to Troy for the next one, Fortnite no build or Fortnite with building?
Ooh, Fortnite no build is real fun because I'm not good at building. So
Building's why I didn't play Fortnite, because I hated it. I thought it was a
yeah,
stupid mechanic.
yeah. We've been playing no build for they took away building for about a week, and now they give you the option of no build, and it's definitely fun. I like it. I like not the no build.
Troy, what do you got here?
I just wanted to throw out, we had, I think Ben and John and I, one of the good things, I know we've talked on and off over the months about Boardgame Arena and them getting bought by Asmodee. One of the good things is we noticed more and more games, especially Asmodee games or kind of CMON stuff, right, is showing up on Boardgame Arena. So Blood Rage was there, and I hadn't played Blood Rage in forever, and so we just threw down one night and played Blood Rage, and it was kind of fun to just remember the mechanics and everything. And we actually played just the very basic, like the no draft version, which is just actually, I would say, terrible. But it was good to just remember the rules, but it's not fair at all if you can't draft your cards in that, because it's very too random in that aspect. But we still had fun, just kind of remembering the rules, remembering how it all worked, and everybody jumping in, having these giant battles in the different parts of the I can't remember what the Viking afterworld is, but Valhalla kind of stuff. Valhalla, and then the what's the tree? I should remember the tree. I have the picture on my wall.
Yggdrasil.
Yep, Yggdrasil. That's where you end up having the big giant battles in that game, right in the center of the board. So I just wanted to throw that out there. There's still a lot. Boardgame Arena is alive and well. It seems like there's they're putting a lot of energy in it, and so it's fun to. Again, maybe that's no excuse for Brice not being in person. We can always jump on Boardgame Arena and throw some people around. So
that would be fun. All right, Brice. Any other outside of hobby? We were kind of talking other tangential hobby sphere, gaming sphere. Anything for you? I know you had a slight internet interruption event.
I just have something for the library if I didn't miss that.
You haven't yet. We're just about to open the door to the grand library at the center of the BOD, and talk about that. So let's segue right into that. What have we been reading, listening, watching? And Brice, you get to lead off.
I get to start it?
Yeah.
Okay. So a while back, when I was an active participant of the book club, which I was twice, I think, we read the book Legend. And I was on my way flying for vacation, and I was like, oh, I know there's other books. I should check them out. So I got King Beyond the Gate.
Nice.
And loved it. And just started there's 9 books that he wrote in this series, and he wrote them all out of order.
Yep.
So I bought the next book that was published, which is like back before Legend. So then I can't remember the name of the book.
That Waylander?
That's the one I bought. Yep. And then something about snow. I bought because that's the next book in chronological order after King Beyond the Gate. So I haven't started that yet, but I'm really excited. It was fun having like new characters introduced and knowing the story of Legend and how that's carried forward and the relationships to those characters and stuff. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I liked. So I listened to King Beyond the Gate, and then I listened to Waylander. I didn't listen to. So I'm doing the order of release.
Okay.
And David Gemmell. You always hear about him, and it's been fun to read a few of those. Definitely good stories.
Yeah.
Yep. There is a David Gemmell Award, isn't there? Which kind of says a little bit about the guy. So that's
yeah.
But yeah, we had a lot of fun with that book. That's good. I had kind of forgot about that. That's another series that'd be good to add to my list here.
Yeah, I'm slowly picking my way through all these like huge epic series, and I should just do them all at once, but I'm kind of doing like a book at a time and cycling through. creating my own metaverse in my head where all of these characters are actually in the same place. And there's a concept, right?
Yeah.
Take a bunch of these different authors and have a world in which they overlap. So you get like Logan Nine Fingers and the guy from Legend. I can't think of his name now. Like the old barbarian warrior.
Dross.
Druss.
Yeah.
So you get Logan, you get Druss, then you get like, one of the bridge burners from Erickson's Malazan books, and you put together this super like adventuring party of warriors, and do like an Ocean's 11 or like Expendables type fantasy book where all these characters from these different
That'd
worlds,
be awesome,
like go and on a suicide mission into like the Lich King's like fortress. Aragorn, throw him in there.
All right, Ty.
Or Gandalf. Who do you take? Do you take Aragorn or Gandalf?
Yeah, I think it's got to be Gandalf.
You need the wizard, right?
Yeah.
Then I take Catterley from the Forgotten Realms books, the priest from those. Oh man, this is happening.
So Ty, save that. This sounds like a con one shot where we pre-gen the characters, and then you give them you basically, like you said, base them on these well-known numbers, but you give them slightly different names and see if people recognize them, right?
Take
and then
Quoth from Rothfuss, Doors of Stone as the bard. Oh my gosh.
We're gonna have to storyboard this. We're gonna have to kind of brainstorm this. This is an idea for an actual real one shot. So,
and the Cat in the Hat wanders into the tavern.
Stop it!
This is the wrong tavern.
Well, we could do. Well, there is there's a version. There's another version that has a bunch of characters from Adventure Time.
Two doors down, buddy.
Yeah.
All right. So Brice has been listening to some Gemmel. Josh, what have you been getting into between your hours of Fortnite and Elden Ring?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I haven't been reading a whole lot lately. I read Best Served Cold, and I was supposed to do the book club with you guys, and I forget what happened. Something family related came up. I don't remember what it was. But yeah, other than that, I haven't done a whole lot of reading. But I watched Last Kingdom, and I think I have like 2 episodes left in this season. So the new season came out, and I know Ty.
This is my story.
Such a good show.
Love that show. Brice, have you watched that one?
Oh yeah, I haven't watched the season yet because the timing of it coming out, but
all right.
It will be watched. I love that show. I can't believe that show got canceled from TV and picked up by Netflix.
Crazy. So good.
All right, so Last Kingdom, Best Served Cold.
And then
Elden
Ring.
Elden Ring. All right. Troy, I'll go before you, and then you can bring it home. So I slowed down in my reading a little bit, but I did read Best Served Cold when we did that for the book club. Had a lot of fun with that one.
Yep. So I'll just say Ty and I had the best book club ever, and
we really did,
and you guys all missed it. So and I should say I recorded it, but I didn't. But we should have just recorded it and then sat on it and held it ransom. But if you wanted to hear the best discussion ever about Best Served Cold and Joe Abercrombie and life and the meaning of everything and whatever, that was what happened in that 60 minutes. So
it also led to discussion with Mike at Adepticon about Abercrombie. I don't know, Troy, how much of that you participated in, but he was a big fan and had a lot of fun talking about that with him. Let's see. So Best Served Cold, so in February, this book was released. It's called Age of Ash. It's a fantasy trilogy, and this is the first book written by Daniel Abraham. So James S.A. Corey, writer of The Expanse, is actually 2 people, Ty Frank and Daniel Abraham. So this is Daniel Abraham on his own, starting a new fantasy trilogy, where everything takes place in one city. So a lot of fantasy novels and series take place across these realms, right? These big kingdoms. He has taken it all and put it in the city of Kithamar, and the politics and the factions and what's happening there, and focused on a handful of characters. So the first book, you see what is happening in this kind of struggle for the soul of the city, so to speak, and it follows a couple of like this poor street urchin type girl and what she becomes, and then different leaders and temples, and really good. Really enjoyed it. No idea how long until the next one comes out, but Age of Ash was the first book in the Kithamar trilogy, and Kithamar is the city. He's a pretty prolific fantasy author, which I don't even think I knew before kind of finding this, that he's won awards and written a ton on his own before The Expanse, and during The Expanse, between when they would release books, he was doing his own thing. So definitely worth checking out. A good read. And then I've listened to Hank Green. He does some voice acting. He's been on some actual plays, but he's an author. I listened to his 2 books. One is An Absolutely Remarkable Thing, and I can't think of the name of the other book now. A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor, and it follows the story of April May. She's like a young 20-something girl, and her kind of how she becomes famous in today's like internet influencer and the events that lead up to it. But there's this weird kind of twist, and it's so worth reading though, because it takes kind of what we've seen over the last 10 years with kind of this idea of influencers and pundits and like entertainment cycle of news, and it really looks at how we have kind of changed as a society with the content that people make, produce, and consume, and follows this story and interjects some sci-fi elements and some political elements, and he's crafted 2 really good stories, and they were a lot of fun. I listened to them, and the narrator changes, so you learn that the book is being written by the characters later, explaining what has happened. So there are times where one of them will write a chapter and then it's a different narrator, which is kind of cool because you get different viewpoints. But really enjoyed that. And then I started listening to another one on Audible. So I've been on TikTok and just kind of watching. I haven't been making TikToks, but there's this whole corner of TikTok dedicated to like books and book reviews. So I saw this one, and this guy raved about this book called The Priory of the Orange Tree, by Samantha Shannon. And it's a epic, it's probably like 24-hour long on Audible. So just kind of an epic, super long book, but it contains, how it's described as, it contains kind of an epic fantasy series in a single book. And it focuses on this realm with this queen. Then there's this nation of like dragon riders, and you're learning about the factions and the politics, and it follows a couple different storylines. But I'm listening to that one, and it's enjoyable. I'd never heard of it. I don't know if any of you have previously. I think it's a few years old, but enjoying
it's
it.
on my list actually of books to check out next. So it's really funny that you read it.
You found it on BookTok?
I did actually, yeah. And then also An Absolutely Remarkable Thing also came up on BookTok. So those are like 2 on my list. That's really funny.
All right, come on, you guys, show us your TikTok moves. Come on, I don't believe that part where you're not posting. Come on, you're doing the little. No. Come on.
No,
you're doing the hand dances.
Yeah, you're doing it. I'm not on TikTok, but now you guys are gonna make me go on there just to follow you guys to see your little dances. Yep.
I'm not Joey Votto.
I didn't know there was a whole book club. This is hilarious.
Yeah,
I guess
it's great.
This is what's going to suck me into TikTok. Finally, like I've stayed away and never even.
So my TikTok is fitness and like diet, like exercise videos. It is book talk, and it is like baseball drills and practice training and stuff, coaching techniques and stuff. And that's pretty much what I've curated, and that's what shows up. Like if I'm, I follow 100 or so people, and that's what the content I get is books, exercise, and baseball. And it's pretty cool how you can customize what you see.
Mine used to be books, like kind of jokes and goofing off, and I don't know, just kind of random stuff. And now it's all Elden Ring. I just get Elden Ring clips.
I wonder why that is.
It's crazy.
And then I watched Last Kingdom season 5, like Josh. I watched, there's a Netflix series, I think it's Korean. It's about a high school where a zombie outbreak happens. At first I was like, this is dumb. Then I got hooked and I watched the whole thing in like the course of a week. And I think it's called All Dead Inside, or We're All Dead Inside. Something like that, set in a Korean high school where an outbreak happens, and they're fast zombies, and it's the kids in the school trying to survive and get to safety. And I mean, if you like zombies, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but John, I think, recommended that one. He had seen that. It was pretty good.
And then the best superhero show just started, and I watched the first episode and absolutely loved it because Oscar Isaac is amazing, and that is Moon Knight on Disney Plus.
I'm at the same point, Ty. It was interesting that I would just watch the first one. I enjoyed it. I don't know anything about the character. I don't have any background on Moon Knight as the comic or anything else like that. But I'm intrigued. I thought I didn't know what to do going in, because actually I think their trailer kind of missed. I don't know. The trailer didn't grab me, but the first show actually has me kind of intrigued. I love the mental. He's multi-personality
disorder. Yeah, dissociative identity disorder, and how it addresses that. And Oscar Isaac is awesome. Like his shock when he comes to and he's in the middle of a car chase, and like, because he's with multiple personalities and dissociative, he doesn't know what's reality and what's not, and who he is. He kind of loses track of time and place. And but I researched the character, because after I watched it, I'm like, I want to learn more. So I read into Moon Knight, the character, and kind of an overview, and saw some of the comics. So not this year for Christmas, but the year before, I got Landon Marvel Unlimited, the subscription where you pay for the year and then you get the full like Marvel catalog on digital, like iPad. So I went and like found a few issues of Moon Knight too, and I'm like reading those now. But really enjoyed the show. So looking forward to more episodes of that. Long list, but that's what I've been reading and watching. How about you, Troy?
Cool. All right, I will go pretty fast. But did we talk about Best Served Cold, Ty, where you and I were?
We mentioned that we did the
just
book
want
club.
To make sure that we
rewatch. I didn't get in the detail because you said we should have recorded our.
Oh, it was
book
the
club.
best.
People missed out. They missed out on our discussion, and they're just going to have to imagine us talking about one of our top 10 books and how much we liked it.
Yep.
I feel like this is slightly directed at me.
No, there were others, Josh, not just you. Not just you. There were other people who left us out in the cold, who left Ty and I out in the cold. But we enjoyed it. But Ty and I enjoyed, because Ty and I always said when we did the book club that at some point it's just going to come down to him and I talking about books.
Looking at each other, talking about a book we read.
Which is the whole reason we started the book club in the first place.
Yep.
So there. But again, 2 thumbs up, 5 stars, whatever. Best Served Cold. Loved it. I needed a little bit of a palate cleanser, change of pace. So I went for Klara and the Sun, which had been on my list for a while, which is Kazuo Ishiguro, who is kind of that Nobel Prize winning author, if you know Remains of the Day. I've never actually read it or seen that movie, but I know it's in like both the book and the movie were very highly thing. Never Let Me Go is my I had seen that movie and in that aspect. And when I dove into this, Klara and the Sun, I don't know how I do this. I didn't do it intentionally. Like, this is Klara and the Sun is told by Klara, and Klara is an artificial friend or an AI. And I noticed that I tended to read a lot of books that have an AI point of view, a non-human point of view. So she is the narrator, and she tells the story. And so she is also a very unreliable narrator because she is not a human. She's an AI. And it's basically her journey of as an artificial friend. The idea is that she starts out in a store, and basically a teenager or young teen kind of comes along, and you pick in this society, you can have this robot that you have as an artificial friend and kind of is an AI to follow along. And Klara's relationship with the Sun is interesting because they are, in some ways, these AIs are, I think they're solar powered, so they kind of have to be in the sun. But it was an interesting, I was definitely intrigued, and there's a lot that Ishiguro, like, he lays out a whole bunch of stuff, but never really resolves it, right? He lays out well, how does this world work, and how the thing, and the plot, and you're expecting kind of like, you have this big mystery, which kind of gets you to read through the book really good, and I loved it in that. But he leaves a lot of things just kind of unresolved at the end. And it was interesting as I read a review, because I got done and I was like, the ending didn't quite, was I satisfied? Did I know? I wasn't sure. But then I kind of read a little bit of interview, and even I think I haven't read, Never Let Me Go is similar. There are echoes of Never Let Me Go. I don't want to spoil anything on in that movie, but there are echoes of that in this book, just in terms of a society that's kind of a little bit different. And so, but I think he talked about that it's not like he's telling a story and a plot to come to a resolution, but he wants to leave you with a story or book that just kind of stays with you, that makes you think about, that makes you kind of sit in your mind. And I found that, and there are still things in that, as I went through that journey, they're like, because he leaves things unresolved, you're kind of like, well, did that what happened? Or there are a couple different ways you could take it. And so I don't want to spoil it, because it's probably not interesting to hear me talking very abstracts, but
that's kind of that idea of Tokaido, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's about the journey. It's about the trip, the experience. It's not necessarily about the destination or the resolution. I mean,
yep. And so I would say some people, again, it's a very polarizing book, I think, for that aspect. Like, there are people who are kind of used to like, well, I want to read a story and get to a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? And that's not what this is. This is him. Yeah, there's a story here, but you get to that, there's no real end. It comes to an end, but that his point isn't to wrap everything up and give you some kind of conclusion. It's really to leave you with a whole bunch of ideas that kind of then sit and simmer in your head and and mill around. So I haven't read the other. People would probably say it's probably not as good as Remains of the Day, and maybe similar to what Never Let Me Go was. But it was a nice, for me, it was a nice little kind of palate cleanser, although it's still in kind of the sci-fi kind of world, but not really. I mean, I don't think anybody would kind of call Klara and the Sun a sci-fi book, except that it has this AI character, and it's set in kind of whatever this other version is. So interesting. Again, short book. I think it's only like 6 hours on Audible, so not super long to kind of dive in. And it'll definitely leave you some interesting ideas about around, especially because of the narrator. So the next other things were, again, I think I saw it, and I think Ty, you hit on it, was Day of Ascension by one of our
Adrian
favorite
Tchaikovsky,
who had done Children of Ruin and Children of Time, and I can't remember the book that he did that we didn't like, but so Day of Ascension is a Games Workshop Black Library book, novella, I'll call it, in that about Gene Stealer cult, and the Gene Stealer cult on Mechanicus world, and the Mechanicus are pretty corrupt and and everything else. So it really is it was interesting, because I actually at when we were at Adepticon and playing Space Hulk. Actually talked to a couple of people because there were some things in here that actually inspired some of the things we did in Space Hulk. It is the book that for me has really kind of solidified the Gene Stealer cult in terms of their background and their lore and how do they work and what's the mental state of it. And I think you've seen splashes of it around because I think that's where Tchaikovsky then kind of drew it. But this is the really great story that in some ways the Gene Stealer cults are the hero of the story. Like it is. There was I think there was a book we talked about that Dan had recommended that had kind of Imperial fists and Gene Stealer cult, but in there the Marines were still like kind of the protagonists. In this, it's very gray in that mostly because you have a Mechanicus kind of planet that and Forge world that's just very kind of corrupt in the Imperial side, and so the fact of the Gene Stealer cult kind of rising up against the man, even though they are so misguided, right? We all know what at the end the Gene Stealer cult is in the end just causing the doom of the world and everything else like that. But and just the different characters that they have in there is really good. So again, novella, very short kind of commitment, but it really can kind of change and it also for me really solidified kind of how he does a really great thing at the end of how the Gene Stealer cult, how do they propagate it through the Imperium? Why does the cult actually kind of look similar across the Imperium? Because in my mind, like sometimes it didn't quite make sense, like if they're just being seeded. So it really did some really nice things, I think, to really kind of solidify the lore around the Gene Stealer cult.
I think what's interesting too is, and I wonder if Black Library will do more of this, is Tchaikovsky is a relatively prolific sci-fi author, like well regarded, best-selling. And I'm wondering if they will go that route with some of their other books. They tend to do these kind of open casting calls, submissions to find authors, but I wonder if they'll go that, like, I think we saw Kevin Scott did some of the children's books, and he's done like the High Republic, Star Wars comics, and like you're starting to see some crossover from media and authors from other places do Warhammer. So I think that was most interesting to me. I haven't read it yet, but does it come through like his writing? I mean, I don't want to say ups the game, but sometimes you get your like relatively popcorn-ish Michael Bay style Black Library novel, and then sometimes you get like the Dan Abnett, like character-driven, solid.
I mean, I think this is again closer to an Abnett type. Again, it's also a novella, so there isn't a ton of characters, but there are. I mean, the characters are star of this, right? There's some action that happens and definitely things in there, but it's not the bolter porn of some of the other, definitely of some of the other Black Library novels. And I don't know. I did not dig in. I think Tchaikovsky is a UK guy, if I remember right. I think he is over there. So in some ways, right, if you live there, you're immersed in Games Workshop, right? You can't, you can't miss it. It's kind of, you walk around the corner and there's a Games Workshop store. So
it's far less niche than it is
here. Yeah. So I wonder if he, I don't know if he, my guess is he had some exposure to it. He may have been a fan of some piece of it, right? And some of that, and that just made it easier for him to kind of like, whether they reached out to him or he reached out to them, right, around this. But it was interesting, an interesting subject matter for him to go after, and it was pretty cool in terms of the timing. And that one, and I kind of have that paired with kind of the Angels of Death, which is the Warhammer Plus series. I finally got around to finishing that up because that is also the Blood Angels versus a Gene Stealer cult, in a very interesting way. And again, there was some things there that we actually took as inspiration that we incorporated into our Space Hulk game. But really, as I went to the end, I really enjoyed it. I mean, there's certain things around, do you like the animation style and things like that, and in some ways is it almost a little bit over the top in terms of the dramatic and the amount of I don't know what to call it, drama that they're kind of enforcing in the depth of these things. But there's some really cool scenes and some really cool characters, and I have to enjoyed that one at the end. And again, I thought it had a really cool way they represented the Gene Stealer cult and how they were kind of taking over the world and being the antagonists for our Blood Angel friends. So it was pretty cool.
I'm sensing a theme with your 40K books.
Yeah, well, it just happened. Well, it wasn't in all intentional. Like I kind of I saw these things and they really kind of just hit me at the right time and let me create some inspiration for some of the stuff that I was actually kind of working on. And in some ways, even though I kind of waited to work on put the last touches on the Space Hulk, I was really kind of happy that it's kind of like you're thinking like, oh, I really want to do something like this, but I'm not sure quite what I want to do. And then there was like Angels of Death. There's a scene where they kind of get to the main chamber where they meet the Patriarch, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to build something like that to be my centerpiece for the Space Hulk board. And that it's just like, oh, I knew I wanted to do something, but I wasn't sure what. And I hit that. And again, and Day of Ascension just kind of helped build the story around it and just reinforce like why we have the kind of the mini bosses that we have in the Space Hulk game. They all kind of had their place in both those stories, which was kind of cool. So
awesome.
So I will switch to again and Angel of Death on TV. Thing I noticed on DMZ, the series on HBO. I don't know if anybody has HBO, and I watched the first episode enough to know I don't know if I will continue to watch the episode. I was so cool because DMZ, if you haven't read the comic, which was a Vertigo comic back in I think the early 2000s, when I saw the series on HBO, I was intrigued, and it's got I should know who the actress is. I
totally missed this. Like I haven't even seen.
Oh, really? It. Rosario Dawson is the lead character in.
Okay.
But I don't, and I hate to be like, I don't like what they did with the TV series. Like again, it's a classic case of you had a comic book and stories in there that, in my mind, were really great, right? And they didn't need to. So what they did is they took the setting of DMZ and then they kind of said, oh, we need to have, kind of this Rosario Dawson driven story about a mother and finding her son and kind of things like that.
The Cowboy Bebopped it.
Yeah, right. Where they
took the heart and soul and
why not just take the stories that were in the books to start with that everybody liked? I know they're trying to hit to a different audience, and somebody in the studio is like, oh, we can't do that. We have to do something that has more. We have a popular star and some of that. So I would say watch it, see if it's really cool. It's really interesting, especially in our current times, because basically what the whole premise of DMZ is there's the second United States Civil War, in that there's basically, Montana, the Midwestern states kind of rose up against whether it's the coast or anything else. He doesn't really go into all the details. I think Brian Wood was the writer of the original comic. But what ends up happening is there's kind of a ceasefire and truce, and there's some major battles in the New York area. But what happens is Manhattan Island ends up being the DMZ, ends up being neither in the United States or I think it's the Free Men or Free Countries area. It kind of gets stuck in between, and then there's a bunch of people that are still left in Manhattan that kind of have their own society, very lawless. In some ways you have warlords kind of pull up there, and things like that. And so just some really interesting stories that happen in that area that are told in the comic book. And then it's interesting because they do get some good spirit of it in the HBO series, around that, because that's where it takes place. So just want to throw it out there because, again, for both, whether hit the HBO series, but I would also recommend going back and digging up the old comics, because and in the comics it's not necessarily one story. Like he basically kind of told some different stories, smaller stories in the DMZ books, but they were all pretty good and they were all pretty I don't know, pretty deep, pretty emotional, pretty, and also talking about kind of the split, and differences, and when it gets to that thing, which unfortunately it seems a little bit too close to where we are maybe in some ways in this country right now, in some of that. So highly recommend. I highly recommend the book. Check out the HBO series. Your mileage may vary in that one. So, and then last, I know this is old news. But as I was painting my 50-some dry brush and assembly, whatever, I did work my way through The Expanse seasons 2 and 3 on Amazon, and just love that series. They did such a great job. I love the book. I think that's a case where, again, because you had the authors involved as the producers there, they almost made the series in some ways better in aspects, or made it very much make sense for the medium that it was being portrayed in. They did the casting in there was, in my mind, is so great. Like the characters are pretty, like they are exactly pretty much what you envision from the books and so forth. So, and made it to season 3, which was kind of the end of the first trilogy. And really kind of satisfying there. So I'm excited to kind of dive back in there and finish up The Expanse too. So
nice. And we have lost Brice again to the abyss. So we won't be able to talk to him about Adepticon, but we are going to take a short break. And when we do, we're going to come back and let Troy share with us about the return of Adepticon. And we are back. Hopefully everyone is refreshed and ready to talk about Adepticon. So this was the long-awaited return to the Renaissance in Schaumburg for Adepticon. Obviously during COVID, a couple years were canceled, but it was the triumphant return. Vaccine checks or negative COVID tests at the door, and yet we still had a COVID outbreak at Adepticon this year. But there was much else other than COVID at the con, and I would rather talk about all the positives. And Troy, since you were there for the entire run, what I think would be good is just kind of a brief day-by-day recap. I'll interject where possible, and Josh will, ask questions to keep us on track for the Adepticon review. We didn't do a preview, so I think it's worth mentioning. As always, Adepticon is a large miniature wargaming convention and tournament. Many tournaments and gaming events that takes place. Was attendance this year about 6,000?
Yeah,
7,
that's what I heard, about 6,000. I haven't seen anything official, but
so large. Was certainly one of the largest miniature wargaming conventions slash tournaments in the U.S. At this point in time, probably the world. I don't know how it compares to anything else, but it's become a very, very large event, and it's not strictly a tournament. It is truly a convention. Lots of different events, painting classes, hobby seminars, everything from narrative games to competitive play tournaments for multiple game systems. So we've talked about it a lot a few years ago, but it's been a while. So just wanted to give the overview. And Troy, how about you tell us about kind of your first day, the arrival, what you did, the Games Workshop preview, some of that.
Sure. So again, Adepticon, and it was kind of funny. I think Hank or somebody mentioned that in some ways Adepticon starts on Wednesday now. There's a lot of people are rolling in, and by Wednesday night, and that's what we did. John and I rolled in Wednesday afternoon and unpacked a whole bunch of stuff. And then you guys, if anybody's been there, then the big thing is usually go stand in line for registration, and you want to get there. You usually, in some ways, you stand in line for an hour before things open up, so that you don't have to stand in as long a line when it opens. Because once it opens, you go pretty quick if you're towards the front. at all. So we jumped in line, saw Eric, our good friend and BOD clubmate here in there. So good to hang out with him in the registration lines in some way. I had a VAG. I had lucked out and got a VAG admission. So I stood in line for a while with John, and then they pulled the VAGs up to the front, and I stood in line in front for a little while. And then once the gates opened and things got going at whatever it was, around 7 or 6:30 or so, I think 7, then I kind of ran up there, and I was probably one of the first 5 because my name started with a W. And so I kept going into the first line. So I was probably one of the first 5 people to get my badge and get out in the VAG line. And the VAG bag, as normal, was ridiculous. I think I hurt myself trying to carry the box games, and then had to be a 35-pound sack full of free stuff that is still sitting half kind of unpacked over there, and some of that. So that was getting through registration. Again, we all got through pretty fast, and then we all sat in another line because the GW preview is then that evening, and GW had a huge presence at Adepticon, even kind of more than they had in the past as they've kind of come through there. I think they had a few little technical difficulties getting their preview kind of up, so we all ended up kind of waiting outside, which created there was just a lot of space chaos, as you had a bunch of people, because the people waiting for the preview were kind of in the same area as the registration line that was still trying to go through. But again, people could figure that out. But once we kind of got in to the main hall for the preview, it was fun to kind of again do the preview live that we've all been seeing, kind of the GW previews, right? Kind of remotely with Eddie. Eddie was there in person. With that, Mike Brandt was kind of the MC on there. One of the really special things was really cool is the Mike at the very beginning was really great to have. Hank and Matt from Adepticon kind of came out, and they've never really done that in the past, where they came out and really kind of addressed the crowd, and again, kind of their thanks to the people who've supported them to get them through the last couple of years, with no Adepticon, in order to, because there were a lot of other cons that struggled and things like that, and so it was great to hear from them, kind of just Adepticon being back, and it was, and I think I had tweeted out or at least to their Discord, kind of sent some messages that even though I was just standing in line at Adepticon, I was so happy to be at Adepticon. I was so happy to be back in this kind of atmosphere, and just being with all my people. Right, it's all our people. It's all the same people that we have, and especially Adepticon. Like I think I had said, kind of either I knew every 4th or 5th person I either knew or know of, right? Because they're either in the community, in some way, or there's somebody that you have interacted with in over the years, and some of that. So Wednesday it was just like again, in some ways, a lot of joy, and the preview was a lot of fun. There wasn't, I don't know if there was anything super. That Horus Heresy was probably the big announcement. That was pretty cool. I mean, that trailer, if you haven't seen it, is pretty amazing. And there was some fun stuff they kind of did with. Kind of a trivia, a Horus Heresy Primarch trivia thing at the beginning of why people were kind of strolling in and getting in. That was a lot of fun too. So that kind of got us to Wednesday, and by the time you did all that and whatever, we were, it was 9-10 o'clock. I think we were all pretty beat, and we thought about actually starting to do setup at that time, but I think we actually ended up going out to eat and grabbing a meal at like 10 p.m. on Wednesday, which was good because as we go through here, that was the last meal I had until I think about Friday at about 8 or 9 o'clock. There was about 2 days in there that went without a whole lot of real meals. That I think Ty will get to, and we'll talk about some sliders or something on Friday. But so we had our last meal Wednesday, and then we went to bed and got it at it. And then bright and early Thursday, we set up Space Hulk, which was kind of the good news again. Got to thank Matt at Adepticon we basically had the back corner of the Utopia room. kind of all to ourselves for basically the Thursday, Friday, and Saturday that we were running games. Had our own nice 12 by 6 table that was just carved out for us. And so we were in the back corner. So we had all day Thursday morning to kind of set up Space Hulk. So we took about 2.5 hours to do the setup, which is great because we weren't rushed. And there's a lot to do. It is even if you're rushed, it's still probably an hour and a half, 2 hour job at the most. So we were able to get that up and going. And we did do Friday night, I think, or Wednesday night. We did kind of get the tables kind of at least prepared so that we could just kind of hit the ground running, and just like the felt and the leveling and things like that to get things going. So then we got that all set up, and then I think our first game was at like 2 p.m. on Thursday. And what was great was, as we go through here, we ran 5 games of Space Hulk over the next 2 days here of Thursday and Friday, and each one of the sessions we had people coming back that we had played with in the past or knew from the community in some ways, and so we had just a blast. I mean, I was completely exhausted almost every day, and after the 2 days, but it was the best kind of exhaustion ever because it was just so much fun in that. So the first game at 2:00, Liz and Colin, husband and wife, who I know from the Independent Characters Discord and that community, and Liz both of them had played in previous games in years past, in kind of 2016, 17, 18 in different games, and then they both were able to get into the first game. So it's great to see them. One of the cool things is Liz had reached out to me earlier this year because her and Colin had basically made their own version of the 3D of the Space Hulk, basically 3D printing all the parts, and basically they took one of our old scenarios that's up on the website as the basis and kind of did that and ran that at their local game store. The pictures are incredible, and Liz had kind of reached out because there was a few questions she had about how we were running the game and some of that. So again, I was flattered, one, that somebody was that inspired by by playing a game that they were gonna do it themselves, and just the way they did it was so cool in terms of the terrain they printed out, and I think they had a blast. And then it was great to have them in that game and get to play. And I think Liz ran the Inquisitor group and did pretty good. So that was awesome. So that was a way to kick it off. Then if that wasn't enough, then then Thursday night, basically we had the return. Basically, Carl Tuttle from Independent Characters, Aaron from Independent Characters, and some of their other buddies joined us on the Thursday evening game about 7:00. So it was great to see them. Met some. I think Sky was one of the other guys in their group from there. He actually runs Herrick Games and Hobbies out in California, and left some information for some of that. So it's kind of cool. Him and Carl actually kind of tagged off because Carl, halfway through, Carl's wife Shell ended up flying in, and so she came out. So it was nice to meet her. You always hear a lot about her if you ever listen to the podcast and things like that. So it was great. Carl also bought pizza for the whole table because we were all worried about, this is the meal part, because none of us were eating at all. So it was great that Carl actually fed everybody, including John and Ben and everybody at the table for that. And this is also this is also the closest game we had, because basically, I've talked about the scenario, right? You have a certain number of turns, and there's certain incentives to go through it. They actually ended up being the closest to not making it. I think they ended up doing it in 12 out of the 13 turns they had, or something like that, to get to the end. And this was also we had one no-show out of the 24 people. So 23 out of the 24 people showed up. And Dan, who was very... he persevered in that. He showed up I think he was there at the 1:00 game and said, "Oh, can I get in?" and waited around and ended up not being able to get in, and came again early and sat around to try and be the one person. And so he was the one person all weekend that actually got to walk in and pick up the loan ticket. But otherwise, again, more and more. Usually in the past, it's kind of like usually we've had one seat or so that we really get people in. But again, as the popularity kind of keeps going up there, and especially
I'd like
this year
to
was.
just point out, Troy, that you have the longest waitlisted event at Adepticon.
It is kind of funny, and I don't. Again, Matt.
The longest waitlisted event at a convention of 6,000 to 7,000 people, hundreds of events, and the Basement of Death Space Hulk game has the longest waitlist. Just want to point that out because you won't mention that, but that's a testament to the effort and the production value of this game. So if you're new listening to this show and you haven't heard a couple years ago when we talk about it, hopefully Troy gets some pictures up, because what they have designed here, when we talk about Space Hulk, it is not a board game. It is levels and levels and sprawling plastic Space Hulk. It is not board tiles. It is not little chips and tokens. It is a epic, like, display level Space Hulk setup that him and his brothers run each year.
So thank you for that, Ty. Yeah, and part of that was I think Matt Weeks stopped by on Friday morning. Matt Weeks, one of the run guy, and it was good to catch him with a little bit. And that was one of the things he had kind of dropped, was like, oh yeah, he's like, you guys have the craziest wait list out of any of the events, including the big tournaments and things like that. So I don't know 100% how true that is, but that's what Matt had kind of shared, which was kind of funny. And it was basically because I get the attendees list, which is 24 people, 1 page for Space Hulk, and then I had 4 pages of wait list that also came with that, which was hilarious. And there were a few. It's kind of funny, like, again, most of the time if people don't get in, they don't even come back to check if they can get in. But there was a couple people over the weekend that off the wait list that kind of stopped by to see if they could get in. But it was, again, very good. And I think some of it was, again, because we hadn't done this in a couple of years, and there were so many people who knew, who we knew that we knew they were going to come because we knew that they had played in the past and were excited about it. So Friday morning, again, more people we knew. And this was the session that actually was, when people actually went to sign up, one of the Space Hulk sections was already full because of Geek Nation Tours. And so Terrace and a lot of group from his Geek Nation Tours group were playing in the Friday morning session. So it was great to kind of catch up with Terrace, kind of known Terrace for many years, kind of through Adepticon. We actually were talking at the beginning. We're kind of like, and Terrace is kind of like, when did we first meet? Because it wasn't Space Hulk, and we finally halfway through, it's like, oh, we played each other in a Combat Patrol tournament way back when, and one of those ones where we kind of had like minds in terms of how we played the game and how we wanted to play. And then he ended up playing in one of the Space Hulks again later, and so it's been great. So it was great to catch up with Terrace, and again, some of his, I think 5 of the 6 people were kind of from his Geek Nation Tours group. So it's good to kind of run through and have some fun too. And so, and we're talking with Terrace. We may do some stuff figure out if we can do something maybe for that Geek Nation Tour group or something, just dedicated for them in the future. But we'll see how that works out. So that was awesome. And then our last one. And we still had plenty of energy, I think, or maybe not. We were running since we hadn't eaten a real meal in about 2 days at this point. But we had a good group, and it was kind of 2 groups of guys. I think two groups that kind of knew each other, and 3 of the guys were actually from there. They were all playing in the team tournament on Saturday and Sunday, in the 40K team tournament. If you're familiar with that, is a really kind of big event. A lot of people go way whole in on hobby for that. And there was 3 guys. I wish I could remember all their names. Evan and some of his buddies, and they kind of have their own group from. I think they all went to school together, college somewhere, and they still get together and they still do the team tournament. And they had so they had a lot of fun going through that. And they have their. I think it's. I don't know how you Ty, how would you say that? Sepulchre of Heroes, or
Sepulchre of Heroes, which is, and I recognize this when you put it in the show notes. That is Blood Angel lore. So that's the final resting place of the greatest heroes of the Ninth Legion.
Yep, and I'm pretty sure one of them played the Blood Angels in the in the game. And then the cool thing was on Saturday night, one of the things we always love to do is we usually love to go down and there's the kind of the what do they call it, parade of armies, where I think some of the top armies for display for the team tournament kind of set up their stuff in the hall out in the hotel there, and people kind of walk by and talk and save things. And we were walking by, and these guys had a really cool kind of I think Grey Knights kind of space station, and we're walking by, and they recognized us, John and I, as we were walking through, and Ben, and it was great. Again, one, they were saying how much fun they had, and then they shared with us. It was cool. They had such an awesome setup of everything. They had this huge kind of space station that was moving and all the different stuff, and they basically they had this really cool codex that they had printed out for their army that they used for their army list and something else, and they gave us one of those, which they to share with us, that I have over here on the side. So it was great to kind of see those guys, and also just kind of mutually appreciate kind of the craft and the amount of dedication they kind of put into their hobby too. And it was fun to see how much fun they had. And I think a couple of them, it was a case where one of them had played or something in a Space Hulk before, and then they want to come back and bring their buddies. And so off of that. So we got to that, and we finally got to eat again, where we ate in the Renaissance Hotel restaurant, which was, I think, trying to suffer through the throes of having a way over capacity of trying to serve all the people from the convention over time, and we ended up grabbing some there, and Ty ended up getting some tiny little sliders with no fries, but but we survived in some of that.
Yeah, it was nice to sit down with the three of you and Brice and have a drink and some food. Maybe before we get into the rest of Friday, because I got in Friday around 4:30. Well, you guys were, still running games, and my first stop was the Age of Sigmar team tournament hall. They were just starting to do awards, and got a big hug from many, many people, but Anthony Polcastro, and just saw Tyler Emerson and Brice, and checked in with everybody from the AOS crew. Alex Gonzalez and his wife were hanging out and just kind of reconnected. Didn't even make it into the vendor area, because then after that I came up by you guys, met up with Brian and Mike Reynolds. So Mike Reynolds is the graphic designer from all the Ethereum stuff, who lives in the UK, who's supposed to be out to work at Adepticon with Brian at the booth in 2020. Obviously that got canceled. So Brian said, why don't you come out? So Mike had been vacationing, stayed the week with Brian, and they did a bunch of stuff, and then came to Adepticon for a few days. So met up with them, went to the bar at the Renaissance pre-dinner, and had dinner with these guys. And then after, Troy and John and Ben did a special. We did kind of half the board. We had 3 squads of Marines, so we ran a half game, and they played relatively aggressive against me, and helped Mike and Brian a little bit, and then I think turned it up. So Troy does this thing when he's running the game where they baby you a little bit in turn 1, get you used to what's happening. Turn 2, show you a little bit of pressure, and they warm you up before they turn it on full throttle. They started full throttle against me, though, over on my side. So I had to.
I think you were playing against John too. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So then I turned it on full throttle and just blazed ahead and got to the objective room and blew up the reactor. But it was a lot of fun playing with Mike and Brian, and kind of a mini game. Mike loved it. Similar to how you said you inspire other people. Mike's like, I'm going to go home and start doing Space Hulk. Like you got the worm in him. He's a big 40K fan and used to play relatively competitively. But he was all in, and I think he got Brian's itch to get. That was the first dice Brian had rolled in, 2 years. So it was a really, really fun experience just to reconnect with Brian, hang out with you guys, play that game Friday night, and then after that we went back to the bar. They closed the main bar for some reason. They close at 10:30 as last call, so then you have to go to the bar at the restaurant, which was open later. Had a few drinks with Kelly from Weird Miniatures, Brian and Mike, and then went back to Brian's that evening. But yeah, Friday was nice just to reconnect. To your point, Troy, every fourth person is somebody just kind of saying hi, catching up briefly, and every few minutes seeing somebody else and saying hi and catching up. It was like a reunion. It was like a big reunion.
Yep. Yeah, and again, I'm gonna miss stuff. Again, we saw Thursday. We ran into Jeremy and his buddy Todd, who I see down there. So it was great to see Jeremy. Todd actually ended up playing. He actually played in session 2 that Carl and the guys from Independent Characters were in. So John proceeded to kill him, of course, for that. And I cannot leave out that this is also the debut of the Flesh Tear Squad, painted by our wonderful fan Josh from Arizona, who painted those for me. They of course played in every single game. We made sure they saw the table. John and I had a blast. Yes, I was going to say that's what reminded me is Ty used them to make sure that they were going to do some work. The captain, we made some pretty cool rules for the Flesh Tears captain, and he did pretty well
too.
Yeah. He did pretty well over the weekend, except when Ty was running, of course. But we'll blame John for that more than anything else.
The Lightning Claw guy was the absolute legend who killed everything. He must have killed like 30 different Gene Stealer cults and Gene Stealers. He couldn't be stopped. And it's because of how well they were painted. That's why they moved so fast and killed a bunch of stuff.
Yep. And they were pretty good. So yeah, again, there was so much to this. We had such a blast, and my kind of my attitude with this one was I kind of just, when I signed up, was like, hey, I'm just going to run games. Like, it's been 2 years. I'm just going to run games because I know there's a lot of people that want to come and play and do stuff. And by running games, I'm going to see all the people I want to see and do some of that stuff. So I can't, like I said, I was so exhausted. I was exhausted, but even the game on late Friday night with Brian and Mike and you, Ty, was a lot of fun. It was fun because it was just very laid back, and I think we definitely had a few beers in us at that point to do that. But
and you got some help cleaning up.
Oh yeah, we were breaking stuff down, and we were all packed up by I think by midnight or so that night. But again, thanks to Matt for just giving us the space to just do what we're gonna do in that space for the whole time there. So that got us through Space Hulk and halfway through Adepticon, believe it or not, or maybe a little more if you count Wednesday as an official part of that. And then we turned it around Saturday for it's more of our low-key game. So we ran Zombicide Invaders, all the 3D print version of that board that's all painted up I'd put all the effort in back about 2 years ago and and never got to run. So it was great to get that to the table. As we were setting up and kind of going there, if you watch on YouTube, Gaming Geek, who does a lot of, again, I don't know how he finds time to do all that. He has a lot of 3D printed boards, a lot of miniature stuff. He came by, talked to him a little bit. He took some video. If you go look at his recap from Adepticon in kind of the intro, he has some really nice pictures of the Zombicide board, and I'm like, wow, that looks really cool. Even though we're doing it, so we played that and had a lot of fun playing Zombicide and Invaders. Again, John and I it was a little bit of an experiment because we hadn't really run that in the real world with real players. And so we the first guy, we had 6 players for the first game, and they barely kind of made it. Again, it's a little one where it's zombicide, so we did kind of seed the deck and some. We do kind of say it so that people don't just die right out, and because you want to have people get there, and there's a little bit of tweaking we can do. I think we had 1 character die in that first game, and then the second game we actually only had 3 players, but it worked out great because then each player ran 2 characters. It had a lot of fun running through that one, and they actually ended up, I think in that one they ended up lucking out on how things kind of fell, and where the zombie alien kind of guys came from. So it was fun. I think we're going to run that. I think we have something that really works there as a con game, so we're probably going to run that again, probably at Nexus. I'm planning to run it here in Milwaukee in June for an evening, which should be kind of fun. So
Nice. Yeah, my Saturday was pretty chill. We woke up at our own pace, went and had a huge breakfast at a local. So I stayed at Brian's house, which is about 10 minutes from the Renaissance in the neighboring community. So I had a big breakfast with Mike and Brian, then talked about HeroQuest. So taught them how to play HeroQuest, had a lot of fun with that. Eventually made it over to the convention for a little bit more on Saturday. That was kind of the first time I walked through the vendor area, demoed Conquest, checked in at a bunch of other stuff, filtered in and out of the Age of Sigmar tournament just to connect with people that I might have missed the prior day. Shadowed Troy a little bit, watching different people cut apart space zombies, and just a very relaxing day. Then went to, so every year the Anvil 8 crew would do Indian food on Saturday at this Indian restaurant just down the street. So Brian and Mike and I with Kelly from Weird went to get dinner there. And the last time it was kind of funny. We had a huge group of maybe 14 people, like Dr. Gabe and Danner and my brother and Will and all. So it was nice to be back, but it was also one of those moments where like, oh man, like it was nothing like the raucous kind of the dinner the last time. It was much smaller, more kind of condensed experience, but great food, good time. And then went back over, I think met up with you guys for a few more drinks once you got back from pizza, and kind of sat at the bar until they closed, and checked out the display boards for the 40K, and the one AOS. So Adam Trunzo, Mike Butcher, Brendan, and Andrew Simmons had done a Castlins of the Red Keep, and just this massive, I don't think we've talked about this yet, but it was 12 feet tall display board, just different pillars, and Adam did all of the display board work, and you could tell Mike Butcher's basing elements and other stuff, and it was just this mammoth towering thing, with like ramparts and walls. I think it was possibly more impressive in design and construction than any of the 40K ones. Like some of the 40K ones have lights and different things, but like just the pure size of that display was like breathtaking. You're like, what is this? Holy cow.
Yeah, just the size of it. I mean, and it was funny, like we just put John next to it, who's 6'8", and the fact that it dwarfed him just was hilarious, right? It was amazing. And then there's models up there like 7 feet in the air. You're like, wait, there's a dragon sitting at like 7 feet up in the air on this castle tower thing. It's crazy. That was an awesome display.
And then so we get back to Brian's, and Brian's like, guys, I'm sorry, I'm going to bed. Mike and I stayed up for probably 2 hours talking about politics and philosophy and worldviews of like England and US and families, and we each have a boy. His son is a couple years younger than Landon, but some of the things they are interested in and what they talk. So it's really cool connecting with Mike, who I'd never met before, but getting his perspective on things, and just really down to earth guy. So we stayed. It was probably 2 a.m. when we finally were like, all right, let's, talking about different ideas for games and world building for RPGs, and like, a skirmish game that he's had milling around for 15 years, and just all this stuff. Like, and you realize, in those moments that there are people that, at Adepticon, that it's cool to be around people that are into the same stuff as you sometimes, and connect and have those conversations. So that might have been the highlight of Adepticon, was that conversation with Mike, which is weird to say, but like, you just really connect with people sometimes over shared interest in common hobbies.
Yep. No, it was pretty good. And I'm trying to think, just, again, our Saturday, in typical, I kind of mentioned it, we went and grabbed some pizza. The waitress was really worried about me because I was vegan, but we worked through it. She was really great.
Yeah, Troy's pizza order is, I would like a piece of cardboard, put some vegetables on it.
No, it was really good. We were at Lumal and Ollie's, or whatever it is.
I'd like you to turn it upside down onto some crust with no butter and sauce, and then hold all cheese. Don't put any cheese on it. Run it through an oven to warm it up just a little bit, and then put it down in front of me so that I can eat it like a salad out of a bread bowl that doesn't have any butter crust.
Oh, not true at all. But it was, but it was really good. I was really happy to get pizza, deep dish pizza, and it was really good. My waitress took really good care of me after she had this terribly shocked face when I didn't want cheese on my pizza. But, and then we came back and I talked about, we did the parade and the parade of whatever we call it, parade of armies, and then we did check out the Golden Demon. I think the other thing was the fact that GW brought Golden Demon back to the U.S. After, I don't know, a decade, more than that. And had it at Adepticon was really, really, really cool. And there was some really good, cool to walk around. And there's something to say. You see the pictures in White Dwarf, or you see them online. Seeing those miniatures in person is always just a different level. And you always try and take pictures yourself, and you're like, it's still not going to, it helps you remember how good they looked when you saw them in person. So it was really cool to kind of walk through and see. And it was great because we kind of went late Saturday night, and so there wasn't a ton of people up there, so you could actually kind of spend some time walk around. So that was, again, one of the other highlights of Adepticon this year, and getting to see that. So and then Sunday was just finally I spent some time in the vendor hall, and I did do, I guess in the morning I did do a class with Nick Baton from GW, and Kat was helping out. Kat from CK, she also works at CK Studios, and Caleb over there, she's also helps GW with their classes. And so it's kind of, I just did it was just a contrast paint class. It was more just hang out. There was a woman, sat with the woman next to me. It was interesting just to chat with her as we were painting for the couple hours. And she was kind of she was more of like learning how, a little earlier, learning how to paint, but, played a little bit of Age of Sigmar, and I think Star Wars Legion was kind of like her thing. So it was, again, like you meet people and you just start talking because you all do common things. And it was kind of cool to have Nick in person that you kind of see on the DW videos then. And that was it. Bought not a whole lot of stuff, a few little things here and there, and then
didn't
called
buy
it
Conquest.
a day. No, I didn't buy Conquest. I looked at it though. I did the drive-by. I didn't buy a lot. I'm trying to think if I bought any. Like I said, I bought a Army Painter, but more hobby stuff. Army Painter starter set. Brought some brushes from Artis Opus. Brought some brush cleaner from another group. I don't know if I actually bought any real models. I bought a lot of more hobby stuff because I have a whole bag of free models that I got from that. Most of it is just half of it's gonna go into my Noble Knight trip this weekend. We'll see, but so
Josh,
that might have been
questions?
Adepticon. Yeah.
Any questions on Troy or my Adepticon experience?
No, I'm feeling a tinge of jealousy throughout all this description. It sounds like you guys had a blast.
We did. You were kind of, like I said, we used Eric as your replacement, maybe Jeremy, Todd. We had some people who tried to stand in for you a little bit, but they were not
Sent you a
Josh.
picture.
But yeah,
I sent you a picture of Brice and Troy and I.
You did.
I think I said, "Yo, missing you" or something, or I don't think I taunted you with it. I think it was a nice text. I don't remember
Right.
exactly.
But the FOMO was real. It was definitely real.
Are you feeling like you missed out on Back in Massive Darkness too, Josh? I've got a full Kickstarter I'll sell you.
I mean,
FOMO's there.
I'll think about it.
Well, tell you what, let's wrap up and talk about what events are coming and see if you can rectify your FOMO by attending some of them. So Origins right around the corner in June 8th through the 12th. Why does that feel like a week-long event? Didn't they combine with something?
Yeah,
they
have like
digital,
I can't remember what it was. It's some kind of electronic
digital gaming
digital gaming thing, and I think they have gone to embrace the full like 5 days.
Yeah.
I think they count their Wednesday as actually part of the. I think that because they're just trying to pretend they're better than Gen Con, and they are in some ways they're not. But
yeah, I've heard things about Origins and Gamma's war chest and lack of funding, and that this is a big make it or break it year for Origins coming off the pandemic to see if they can bounce back or not. But that's in Columbus, Ohio, second week in June. End of June in Brookfield, Wisconsin, local to us, is Nexus Game Fair making its return. That's at the Brookfield Convention Center, right? The little kind of hotel and convention center by the mall.
I think it's the Sheraton. Yeah, kind of. I think it's a Sheraton kind of. Yeah, nowadays there's more of like a
they've built more event space there.
Yep.
Troy, you'll be running some games there. I won't be able to go. I've got a baseball tournament that weekend, so it'd be we'll see, but it would be tough to make it. I'll be up in Cedarburg coaching Landon's baseball team.
I will say I'm only there probably Friday right now. I'm planning to go on the Friday of that.
Okay.
So.
And then this I'm very excited about, Gen Con. Able to secure housing through some excellent partnerships and dear friends. So Josh and I are going to be rooming. We're talking about kidnapping Brice and or Tom to make sure that one of them makes it. But heading back to Indy, Troy, I know you and Ben did last year kind of the Gen Con. I'm going to call it Gen Con Light or Gen Con pandemic legacy game. And this appears to be more. Gen Con is back to its full ridiculousness of overcrowded downtown Indy and sold out hotels and 50,000 whatever attendees. So that'll be a lot of fun first week in August. Then Brice and Tom. So Tom sent a message to Brice and I saying, what are our thoughts on NashCon? Brice and I said, let's do it. It'll be fun, even if our games are terrible. None of us have played a game of AOS 3 competitively, and probably won't until we get there. So I'm thinking Tom and I are going to hold down the bottom tables, but honor our commitment for a 2022 NashCon attendance to Stu, Anthony and David running the event. Best terrain I've ever seen at a Wargaming tournament. And just great city, and hopefully, see Jacob Berry and hopefully share beverages and maybe take a nap under the table with him. But ultimately, that's going to be great getting back to Nashville for NashCon. So events coming up. We'll be at a few of them, not all, but a few. Josh, maybe you can get to Nexus and keep Troy company.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll try to swing out there, maybe with you, Troy, or some point that weekend.
Yeah, like I said, we're at least gonna be there that Friday, doing some Zombicide Invader probably.
Sweet.
So let us know if you're going to be at any of these shows and cons, and Troy will give you some coasters or stickers.
Yes.
I know he has a stockpile of them. He had them on the end of the table next to where they were running Space Hulk. I was like, oh, I'm gonna steal one. I stole a sticker. All right, I think that gets us through Adepticon, what's coming up next, and episode 60. Can our show get Social Security now? No, you got to be 63,
65,
right?
or 63,
65.
5. I don't even know what it is
I don't
anymore.
know.
Yep.
We're retired though, so
Mhm.
that we're old enough to retire. We'll live off our Patreon and our sponsorships. What do you mean we don't have a Patreon, Josh?
I was. I don't have Patreon. Do we have Patreon?
All right. Well, hope you all enjoyed listening. Sorry for the delay between episodes. We promise it'll only happen maybe again, but hopefully not,
Yeah.
as we get back to more regular content. Twitter at Playin and Slayin Show, basementofdeath.com, tweet at 40K Basement, Groovy Coop, or Fat Kid Sports. If you tweet at the Basement of Death, Troy won't read it, but I'll let him know. And we're out there, emails, all that stuff, basementofdeath.com for all your Space Hulk needs. Man, it's been fun. In the meantime, though, everyone, keep the dice rolling, the drinks on ice, and no matter what, keep playing and slaying. See ya.